Hey, we're live. That means I'm supposed to say, I'm Brent Leary.
And I'd love to say I'm Paul Greenberg, but I'm not in my home studio, so I don't really know who I am. I might be an intruder.
No, you're still Paul Greenberg. You're just,
Really?
yeah, you're
That
just
how that works?
out of your natural habitat.
Well, you know what happens to wildlife out of habitat, man. They don't last long.
Anyway, we are the CRM Players, and yes, it's a special edition watch party. This is another one of these kind of brunch ones, right?
Yeah, it really is. It's more of a what you call was no, it's brunch with and a scotch.
And it's how about brunch in a vanilla yogurt nougat bar? Because that's all I have, and some
Oh,
water.
all right. Well, for me, it's brunch and nothing then.
Well, but you're on location. Where are you? What
That's right.
location?
I'm actually in the Ritz Carlton at the Half Moon Bay Ritz Carlton with I'm at Ray Wang's Constellation Connected Enterprise 2021. It's my first business conference in 2 years. All kinds of your and my old friends are here, and it's sort of the Digerati event, really, when it boils down to it. That's kind of what it is, but it's fun. It's always great fun. Ray puts on a great event. I got here yesterday, and it's been a blast, man. Already, I'm seeing all our buddies.
Well, and one of the big news items, it didn't actually come from there, but it's about a buddy of ours, particularly a big buddy of
Yeah.
yours, who made a big announcement. Why don't you fill them in while before we go to the event?
Well, so as of October 25th, yesterday, Bob Stutz, who those of you who know him, has been one of the pioneers in the history of CRM. I mean, I always call him the godfather of CRM technology, and as I said, I get to do that, right? So, um, and he's now the currently, after having been the head of everything else, pretty much on his way through, the head of SAP CX, the president, is retiring, and the official transition starts to the new person on who I don't know on November 15th, but Bob will be as a transition advisor and till the end of this year, and then he's off into I don't want to say the sunset. I'd say a different sunrise, really, knowing him, right? But it's well deserved. The guy has been a legend. He's done so much for this industry, and you can make a huge case that where CRM is a $50 billion industry because Bob Stutz did what he did.
Wow, that's a pretty cool legacy.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Very
And
cool legacy.
he was supposed to come here, but he's not because he ended up having he had knee surgery about a week and a half ago, and the doctor really didn't want him to travel. So they're going to do a Zoom in discussion with him tomorrow.
Cool. Very cool. Well, the other thing about Bob, one of the best dressers in the CRM industry. He is well known for his gear, and rightfully so. We call him Buffalo Bob on the show because he's a huge Buffalo Bills fan, which is pretty good for this year.
Yeah, you're not kidding. They're they're
Yeah.
they're they're a serious competitor. I'll tell you, we got Daniel Jones, Giants guy, but and you know what? He's not as bad as people say. They constantly attack the guy, but he's actually a decent quarterback. He just has no offensive line. But Josh Allen, we could have had too, and I kind of would have
Yeah.
rather have had him. Right? So
Well,
lucky
yeah.
for Buffalo.
Yeah. So anyway, this is our first time doing this kind of watch party for this kind of event because it's not really a CRM or a CX event per se, but it's Creative Cloud. It's the content, and we all know content in all its forms is becoming, or already was, but even more so critical to any kind of experiences that you have with customers. So we thought it's time to start doing this. It's time to start watching Adobe from the Creative Cloud standpoint because it's getting connected with their Experience Cloud stuff.
Yep. And honestly, look, I mean, the big question for those of you who care about the world we live in when it comes to business anyway, the big question is not what it's been. The big question is how we can create, distribute, and consume content, because the millennials and the Gen Zers don't do it the way our generations did. And they've had a big impact on how we even consume content. And the big issues of the day are content creation and even bigger content distribution. This conference focuses mostly on creation, although there's some distribution in the ecosystem that they do have. And I think hopefully we'll see some announcements in that direction. But it's really important. And that is the question today. So this conference has a magnified importance than even in the past years.
It has an even more magnified importance to me and you, because we both just ordered these ridiculously priced MacBook Pros with the new M1 Max chip. And I'm wondering, will we hear an announcement that says Adobe Premiere or the whole Creative Cloud will have a native application for the new M1 Max chips? Because that's what I want.
No, I hope so, because otherwise we'll probably have to return it. We'll have to return our MacBook Pros. No, I'm very excited, and I guess starting in about 45 seconds, we'll start seeing this, right? So, and thank you, Anand, by the way. I'm having some lighting things here, but beyond that, I think it's fine. Kind of worked.
Yeah, the on location, it's working out.
It's just attempt. You and me will be, and we'll be talking about some other time. We'll be talking about some other things we're putting together to make a even better on location for when we travel. We're just working. This is just the basics.
All right, I'm gonna put the sound on now. And,
okay,
see what we have.
Here we go. I'm excited. Looks like you're DJing.
I could. I can like bust over to the turntables there.
Just turn your chair.
You know what? I haven't DJ'd any events this year, like any analyst events. I did like 2 last year. Right?
Yeah, well, somebody's making a big mistake out there. All right, here we go.
Right on time.
Well, that's a first. They're already ahead of every other curve this year. Look at this, and look at of course, the graphics. Yeah, I mean, amazing always. I just love this stuff. I'm pretty sure all of this is done in Creative Cloud. It would be funny if we did all of this in Final Cut Pro. Look at these things, though.
They look great.
I'm just envious when I see this stuff. Thank you. I want to be that person. Hopefully, we'll be hearing that on it. I hope so.
Welcome to Adobe Max. Thank you for joining us. While I miss the energy of an in-person event, this year's digital experience allows us to engage with more people across the globe than ever before. Since we came together at this time last year, we faced a significant number of challenges. And through it all, we continue to experience the power of creativity.
Oh my God, yeah.
Sustain us,
he's pretty much obviously mastered
and inspire us.
Yeah.
At Adobe, we've relished the opportunity to bring communities together through creative expression. Our creative residency program has supported hundreds of creators from 45 countries.
See, this part, by the way, is super important. I want
to bring their creative
flesh it out
projects
in a minute. I want to see what a little more.
We've been inspired by how the global creative community has united around causes of diversity, equity, and inclusion. As a part of our long-standing commitment to elevate underrepresented voices and create greater equitable access, we launched Diverse Voices on adobe.com, where everyone can engage and share their stories. We believe that hearing diverse perspectives can help us evolve what's possible for the next generation. Of particular note is our Create Change series that bridges the divides between cultures and creative disciplines through the shared activity of bringing unique stories to life. And you continue to bring urgency to climate change awareness to create waves. Over 12 million people have shared
That's actually a great
absolutely
hashtag.
breathtaking photos, videos, and illustrations to depict the importance of ocean protection. Your work has inspired the world during the times when we've needed it most. It's what motivates us at Adobe to keep innovating and inventing the future. When we launched Creative Cloud, our vision was to reimagine the creative process, providing new
Okay, so
features and
while he's
capabilities
speaking,
continuously and
the
enabling
thing
you
he
to create
emphasized, which I think is
wherever
super important,
inspiration strikes.
is
I'm
community,
tremendously
collaboration,
dedication and
sharing,
resilience
and
of our team
ecosystem,
over the
really.
last
And
year
that's
to
the
deliver new
distribution
breakthroughs.
network for
Super
them.
resolution in
And it's
Lightroom that
super
makes low
important
resolution
that
photos
that's where they
suddenly
go.
detailed and crisp.
Well, the interesting
Edit
thing is
text
they've had
and
all those
images
components,
functionality in
and
Acrobat Web.
now it feels
Creative
like they're
Cloud
putting it
applications running natively
in the
on
forefront of
new
their
hardware
messaging,
like
which I think is
Apple's
great.
M1
Really
chip
important.
and Microsoft Windows Surface and Pen,
I remember when they
boosting
bought the
speed
Belsky
and
or
performance.
Behance.
The new
Behance.
Substance 3D
Yeah,
collection,
and I was like,
That's
arming
core.
you with the same
Yeah.
tools and materials that are used in movie and gaming visual effects
it kind of got
to elevate
overlooked
your
because of
3D
all their
creation
big
for marketing,
acquisitions, but
product design, and
that's
more.
just as important as many
Adobe
of the other ones
Sensei,
they've done.
continuing
I
to
honestly
learn
think
from your
it's the
usage of
core thing
Photoshop
they
mural
do.
filters and Acrobat liquid
The other
mode.
stuff is the
Finally,
creation part.
partnering with all of
Those
you
are all
on
distribution,
our
and
content
that's
authenticity
the key.
initiative, which
If you're dealing
provides
with anything,
attribution
it's how you
functionality
distribute content.
to
It's going
help
to be
us
the key
trust
to a
content
business
and
future in
enable artists to
this
get
year
credit for their
and
work.
going forward.
Adobe's
That's
25,000
why
employees
you
around
have
the
to look at
world
Adobe
are rallied
through
around
the
this
combination
vision
of Adobe
to
Max
create
and
products
Adobe
and
Summit.
experiences
Yep,
that move the world
absolutely
forward.
right.
Technology has enabled more people than ever to create, distribute, and monetize their content.
Yep.
And
Yep.
content
Right again,
powers
Anand.
art and culture. It's the fabric of education and entertainment, and truly the engine for economic growth and social impact. With content creation, consumption, and monetization happening across all surfaces and media types, we're delivering new ways to express your vision. We've delivered our flagship applications across PCs, desktop, and mobile to allow location independence and the ability to collaborate with stakeholders.
Again,
This
distribution.
includes Photoshop and Illustrator on iPad, Lightroom across all these surfaces, and Photoshop Express, an easy-to-use mobile app that allows you to tell your story in fresh and compelling ways. Our vision is now to aggressively expand Creative Cloud to the web and make it a first-class platform for both content creation and collaboration. We believe this will enable millions of first-time creators to tell their story. Millions have already benefited from innovative workflows that we've delivered on the web, such as Acrobat Web, which now supports 21 frictionless verbs.
Wow.
To create, export, extract, and edit PDF. And we're excited to share more about our vision of the web as a transformative creative surface. We're also continuing to push the boundaries of new and emerging mediums with Adobe Aero now in public beta, which gives you an intuitive way to build, view, and share immersive AR experiences. Collaboration is fundamental to the creative process, and the new
Yeah,
frontier where technology will enable
Collaboration,
millions more to
community, sharing,
Cloud Advances
ecosystem.
allows
all
storage,
there.
manipulation,
And the tools
and
for
machine
it.
learning
That's
to deal with all
fantastic.
data types. And compressed timelines are increasingly
Yeah,
the reality
but it's
for all
just strikes me as
contributors.
they had
We're extending
all
the
of this
collaborative
already,
power
and
of Creative Cloud
I wonder
libraries,
why
cloud
now
documents,
is
design
where they're
systems
starting
in
to
Adobe
emphasize.
XD,
I'm
Adobe
pretty
Stock,
sure
and
that
Adobe
they're just
Fonts
getting aware
for
of the
video
change,
artists.
really. I mean,
Our
I
acquisition of
imagine their
Frame.io
workforce has changed
combines
like everyone
our
else's to
industry-leading creative video
millennials.
editing software,
So
Premiere Pro and After Effects, with Frame.io's review and approval functionality
Well, I
to
think
deliver a
collaboration
powerful collaborative
has been
platform for video editing.
so
With Adobe
needed
Workfront, we
with the
connect
pandemic
creative
and people
and marketing
working
professionals
remotely. So
to
it
manage
makes
all
sense to
creative
you
workflows
have it. Now is the
across
time
the
to really
entire
drive it home.
marketing lifecycle.
well, I know from what
with a
I've
single
seen that
application.
I think it's Behance,
This
but
year
one of
marks
their
the fifth
technologies
anniversary of the
allows
introduction of
for
Adobe Sensei, our
external,
artificial intelligence and
like,
machine learning
typically
framework
Behance is
and
sharing,
engine.
it's collaboration, right? So
Brilliant
sharing
engineers and
internally,
scientists
but
have
one of them,
delivered
and it
some
may be them now,
incredible
allows
magic
for
over that time.
external sources coming
Today,
in.
Adobe Sensei is powering hundreds of features
So
and
my buddy
capabilities
Troy said he can't
across our
hear us over
solutions in Creative
over
Cloud to
Shantanu.
eliminate
So I'm going to
tasks like
turn him
synth
down a
moving,
little bit. all right?
colorization, and super zoom that used to take a lot of time, and specialized knowledge in reducing them to just a couple of clicks.
Let us know, hey
By
Troy. Let us
bringing
know if you can hear us
artificial
now.
intelligence to creativity, we're accelerating your ability to create in 3D and VR with features like
Holy
fluid
God, look
motion
at that.
and realistic
That's
lighting.
amazing.
And as
That
machines
is.
get smarter,
That's some
the
crazy.
same
I'm
way
just
will
like,
enable
I
our
could just sit here and
applications to be
watch
more
the show and be
accessible
perfectly
fun.
happy.
Well, I'm an
Yeah.
Say
engineer at
nothing.
heart, and the technology
Thanks, Troy.
amazes and motivates me.
We
The real
good?
reason we come together
Yep.
during Max is our commitment to
There it
creating
is.
the
I'm
future
telling
with all
you,
of you.
they're nailing this.
Our
I'm excited.
collaborations have
I
never
didn't
been
quite
more rich
see that.
or
You know,
more
I mean, I
inspiring
didn't
than
see
they
that
are today.
as how they would focus.
Through our
But I
creative
think this
challenges,
is
we
ideal.
have
It's why
collaborated
they're the
with
big
some of the
five
world's
now,
most
right?
creative
Part of the
musicians.
big five.
Over
Why they
28
graduated.
Behance
Well, I think,
members
like you
are
said,
now sharing their
they
incredible
maybe I said they
portfolios
had
online.
all of this
To all
already.
of you who are
Now it's
actively
cool to
engaged
see
with
how
us,
the
would ask our
messaging
teams to develop new
supports it
tools,
all and brings it
offer
together.
direct
It's
feedback, get early
100%
access to
aligned to the
technology.
world that they need
Thank
to be aligned
It
to.
is these incredible collaborations
100% so
that
far.
rally our teams all around the world. As we continue to bring transformational technologies to market, we're committed to
You know
playing
what?
a leadership role in ensuring
Just to compare and
its
contrast,
responsible use for the good of
his
society. We're working to
his
advance
messaging
digital
is sounding
literacy
sort
and
of like
inclusive design
what you hear from
through our
Benioff.
products and
Yeah.
services. As part of our content authenticity initiative, we published a draft specification for an open standard to combat online disinformation.
Well, that
If the
one,
past
see,
18 months have taught us anything,
that
it is that
thing
the
is
power
amazing.
of
The authenticity
creativity
initiative
to
is
unite,
amazing.
Well,
very
luckily
smart.
for us, we're going to be talking to the guy heading that up directly
Yeah.
after this, Will Allen. So
inspire each other.
I'm looking forward to that
Future
so we can
belongs
discuss
to
it with
those
us
who
a
create.
bit. Tell
Now
us
let's
more.
create tomorrow together.
The other side with
With that,
Adobe is
I'd like to welcome the host for Max and our Chief
Okay.
Product Officer, Scott Belsky.
the other thing with Adobe on this is they have a proven ability to create standards.
Thank you, Shantanu.
Like
Welcome,
PDF.
everyone.
Yeah,
Like,
Thank
PDF.
you for
They know
joining
how
us
to
for
do it.
Adobe Max. Before we jump in, let me remind you that following today's keynote, the Max team has curated sessions over the next 3
This is
days
Belsky,
that you're
isn't it?
going to
Yeah.
love. We'll have conversations with some of your favorite artists, like Oscar-winning director Chloe Zhao and actors Tilda Swinton and Brian Cranston, along with workshops
you know,
with leading designers, visual artists,
that was only, what,
and
about
Adobe's
10, 12
own
minutes?
passionate experts
Yeah.
and
Notice
evangelists. Please explore the
he
options
gets
to
in,
build your own
gets
schedule
hits it,
to
and
make the
then
most of it.
they move on. I like
Now, let's
that.
face it,
You know,
it
it's
has
you
been
play to your
quite a year
strengths, and I
since we
think
last got together,
that, you know,
filled with moments of both
not everybody is
optimism and
a
struggle.
Mark Benioff,
As I think about my
and
own
you don't
ups and
have to
downs
be.
this past year or
No,
so,
and the other thing,
I'm
look,
struck by
last
the
year, to
role
be, as
artists
you
and their
alluded
creations
to,
played
it
in
was
lifting my
terrible.
spirits and helping me
Right?
grow.
It's
amazing
literally
how
terrible.
creative
Well,
And
helps us
the
make
Adobe
sense of
Summit
the
was.
world,
I don't remember.
right,
keeps us
right.
inspired,
Not
and heals
we
us
didn't do
when we
this,
need
but
most.
you're
It is
right. The
fueled by
Adobe
emotion
Summit
and
was
suffering,
the
but it yields
experience cloud,
healing and hope.
basically was
Take,
awful.
for example,
Not the whole thing,
the
that
early
initial
1500s,
speech, but
when
people were
Bennett
just getting
was
used to the
emerging from an
pandemic
earlier
thing.
wave of pandemic.
Right.
Right.
A
So
group of city elders constructed this
Look at
magnificent
this.
building dedicated to San Rocco, the saint seen as a protector against plague. They commissioned Tintoretto to provide the paintings.
Unbelievable what they're
masterpieces that
doing
ultimately
here.
set the course for the Renaissance
Look at
as we
that.
know it. And in the
That's-
centuries since, from the Renaissance to Picasso's
They've
Guernica,
created a virtual
we
museum
see it again and again
with actual
the Japanese
art.
tsunami, the AIDS epidemic, and the
I mean, it just
ongoing
looks
fight
great.
for civil rights, all the way up to our current pandemic.
I'm going to sit here and be jealous
over,
most
the
of the
cycle
time, I
repeats
think.
itself. A period of despair spawns a creative rebirth.
You
The
know,
art
this has
created
been the
reflects our
most
suffering,
visual
but it also projects our hope.
virtual event
And
so
this
far in
time
the
is no
industry.
different. A new renaissance of sorts is upon us right now. A resurgence of making in the form of creative side projects, artistic collaborations using new technologies, content-driven small businesses, and a deeply felt desire to take creative risk. At Adobe, we firmly believe that the coming years will be about renewal and reinvention for creative careers, for broken industries in need of reimagination, and for society at large. So let's all rise to this occasion together. And we at Adobe are honored to be on this journey with you. So our teams have spent much of the last year thinking about our responsibility to outfit you for this creative renaissance. The roadmap ahead for Creative Cloud is designed with 3 goals in mind. First, to really enable connected creativity.
Yeah.
To unleash
Again, the emphasis on
potential.
ecosystem,
And third,
community,
to empower
theme,
creative careers.
theme. It's saying.
Let's
there.
start out by imagining what's possible in a vastly more connected and collaborative
The answer
era of
is,
creativity.
if anyone can,
Everything
they
you make is
can.
in the cloud,
It's
accessible to
going to be
anyone.
tough, but what they're
Where teams
actually
work
trying to
together
set
without
one
version
for
conflicts or
is
bureaucracy,
kind of workable for
where
them to
any
set
asset
it.
you need is
They
always at
have
your
the
fingertips and up
credibility.
to date. Well, today marks a major
NFT
inflection in the
generation.
journey
Yeah,
of
well, what
Creative
we're going to
Cloud.
do is turn
We're
the
making
LinkedIn
Creative Cloud as
conversation that's
much
going
about
on into an
collaboration
NFT.
as it is about creativity.
Sell it
We're
for
making
$5
Creative
million
Cloud
and
more
fund
accessible on the
our
web.
Playaz
And we're
production network.
incorporating Frame.io, the industry-leading cloud-native platform for collaborating on video production. I can't wait to share with you how Creative Cloud is advancing connected creativity.
You know, what's really
later this
interesting
morning.
about Belsky is usually
Okay,
when
so let's
your
talk about
company gets
unleashing
bought
creative potential.
by
Our teams
a big
across Creative
company,
Cloud,
you're there
from
for a little
imaging
while, then you
photography
leave.
to video and 3D,
He's
are
been there
innovating to
for
help you create in ways you
what,
have
about
never
7,
dreamed
8
of.
years?
At
Many of
least,
these
yeah,
breakthroughs come
yeah.
from Adobe
Wow,
Sensei,
He's fully
our
integrated.
artificial intelligence
Well, good
engine
for him.
that makes it
Well,
possible for
this
you
would
to do
be
with
a
few clicks
look. If
what
I've
previously
thought
would have
about it on
taken
and off, and
hours
if I
of
ever was,
intricate
I
work.
wouldn't. But if I was
You
ever
will
to go to
not
work for a
believe some
company,
of the
there's
magic
one, maybe
coming to
two I would
Photoshop,
like to work for,
Illustrator,
maybe
Premiere
3.
Pro,
This
and
is
other
one of
Creative
them.
Cloud apps. And we will be showing you those this morning.
Just want to be around.
Adobe, did you hear
this.
that?
Spend some time this
Yeah,
morning.
don't
Shantanu,
try.
did you hear that?
Yeah, don't try
area
that.
of 3D and immersive design.
Won't work.
Our team is on a mission to
Let's
open
call
the
that
world of 3D creation.
hypothetical and metaphorical.
Not only those with the new Adobe
Yeah.
Substance 3D collection of tools.
You know, I
but
wonder if
also
they're going
by
to start talking
integrating
about the
industry-leading
metaverse kind
Substance
of like
capabilities
another
and
company we
materials
know is
into
talking
apps like
about.
Photoshop and Illustrator.
I'm telling you,
Towards the
man,
end
I'm
of the
just stuck in
keynote, you will
DC
see
Comics
some
multiverse
absolutely
still. So
mind-blowing superpowers of our 3D and immersive tools that I guarantee will stretch your brain with new possibilities.
You know, I think of the
Finally,
metaverse and
I
companies
want to
that
share
should
a
be
number
a
of
big player.
initiatives to help you
Adobe
thrive
comes to
in your
mind.
creative
me
career
too.
and journey.
NVIDIA
An
comes to
essential
mind as
part
well.
of Behance's mission is to grow the careers of
Facebook.
creatives.
these are the
is 'cause
two.
he's
Well,
talking about-
NVIDIA on the
More than
little
160
hardware side and
million
on
people
some of the
visited Behance
software
for creative
side are
projects
the
more
leaders,
than
really.
2 billion times.
Right. And
And
Apple
now,
should
in
be a
addition to
leader.
the
when
hundreds
you
of
think
Yeah.
about it.
hours of
Well, Apple is
tutorials
like
and
a
workshops
universe of its
streaming on the
own.
Adobe Live platform
It
each
$1
is.
trillion
week, Creative Cloud
revenues.
members on Behance can now
Run
offer a
rate, $1 trillion
subscription for their
run
live
rate for their
streams and
revenue.
assets, and we at Adobe take zero cut of
Trillion.
whatever you earn. Through our new Hire Me button, thousands of Behance members every week are getting new work. And we're adding the ability to display and
So
publicize the
smart.
NFTs you create on Behance.
You know,
no
I'm
matter
using
where you've
Creative
chosen to
Cloud
mint
now,
them.
and I'm
If you're
talking
not
to
already
these
on
guys,
Behance,
and
check it out.
that the
Okay,
thing that first
let's
impressed
get
me was the
started with
ecosystem
collaboration
that's there,
and the future
and they
of
feed the
connected
ecosystem
creativity.
all the time. They're always
Oh,
sending
yeah.
information out, always sending out tips. They're sending out conversations. They're showing you people doing the work. I mean, it's
There's
really
one
well
ambition
done.
we all share.
Yeah. I mean, I've
We
been
want
a
our
Creative
work to
Cloud
have an impact. You know, it's
user from the
tempting to
very
think that
beginning.
impact springs
I'm
solely
like
from
6
the
or 7 years
creativity
in,
of our
and
ideas.
it's
But
always
that's
been
only
there.
half the equation.
It's
Your
phenomenally
impact as a
smart.
creator is the product of your creativity and how organized you are. Creativity times organization equals impact.
Notice how it's
For
always
decades, our teams at
creativity
Adobe focused
times or
mostly
plus.
on the
Right.
creativity side of this equation. But as creativity
See,
becomes
the key,
increasingly
I think the
collaborative,
key
more
point
critical to
that
every
we
company's
that we
digital
haven't
experience,
seen
and
yet,
more
let's say, but
complex,
it's early,
it's
obviously,
not enough
is
for Creative
to your
Cloud to
point
help you make
earlier,
a stunning
the
composite or illustration.
the
In the era of connected
the
creativity,
integration,
Creative
so to
Cloud must
speak, of
also function
Digital
as your
Experience
creative
Cloud
system,
with this,
keeping you connected
right?
to
And
every
we need to
thing
see
and
that too.
everyone you need to make a project
Yep.
successful. There are 3 pillars to creative organization: your assets, your apps, and your team. Let's
That's
start
like
with
people-
your assets. The
I can't
best way
believe
to
they're
keep
doing
them
that.
organized is with Creative Cloud.
People
Live.
process and technology,
Mia Alexander from our
their
design
version,
team is here to
AAT
share the
instead of
very latest.
PPT.
Hi, I'm Bria Alexander from Adobe Design, and I am
Great.
super excited to share some of the newest features and updates to Creative Cloud libraries. CC
have
libraries
some
are the
sun
central
coming
place to
in
store
now.
all of your creative assets, color palettes, fonts, common
you do.
illustrations,
You're getting
versions of your
backlit.
branded assets, and even audio files all live in harmony in CC libraries everywhere you need to access them. And this year, we've made it easier than ever for teams to work in libraries. First, we've introduced nested groups in libraries to make it easier to stay organized, create subgroups, and even subgroups for your subgroups to keep everything where it needs to be. Libraries have
Collaboration?
always been a great way to organize your
asset
own
management
assets.
too. But
Today,
it-
we're
this
introducing
actually
two
overlaps
libraries
with
so you can
Experience
share your
Cloud.
collections with teams
Yeah,
across your
exactly.
organization.
Kind of
without
its
limits.
origin was a
Finally,
bigger
I'm excited
version.
to
Manage all
introduce
that.
the
Yeah,
version
manage
that
all
will be
that
available
stuff.
soon.
Yeah.
View what your libraries look like in their past life with the time machine capabilities of versioning. Find old creative elements,
What I
rediscover
like about
previous
this
states of your branded
is
assets,
I
and
like
watch
to
the
see,
evolution of your design system come together all over
Black
again.
participation
And all
from
these features and more
the
are available
folks
across
on
Creative
during
Cloud,
these
including
events.
Creative Cloud
And it's
Desktop
good. I
and
think this
creative
might be
tools
the
like
first time
Photoshop
I've
and
seen
Illustrator,
an
as
Adobe
well as some of the
employee
most
slash
popular non-Adobe
executive
apps like Microsoft
on a big
PowerPoint
stage.
and
I
Google
didn't see
Slides.
Adobe Max. I haven't been there before, but
Thanks,
Adobe
Priya.
Summit.
Now
I don't
let's
think I
talk
saw
about
that.
your apps in the era of connected creativity. A truly connected creative application makes collaborating as easy and frictionless as creating. As we spend time with many of
Hey,
you
Brent,
watching
someone
your
asked
day-to-day work, two things
what the
became clear.
metaverse was.
First is
by
the
the way,
importance
on
of
the
cloud
comments.
documents. With
Yeah, I
cloud
saw
documents,
that.
you can access your work
Do you wanna-
across
No,
devices.
I'll let you do that.
Make sense of changes with versions of
I'm
I'll-
multiverse.
easily share a file with anyone you're working with.
You know, we'll have to
Second
post
is
some
the vital
because
need
it's
Maybe a
for
little
actually
later.
collaborators
yeah,
to
it's
create
something that's
together
still
anywhere.
not
Our
real,
teams
but
embarked
it's
on a
just
bold
kind of
journey,
being talked
starting
about.
with
Right.
Photoshop.
With
to unlock
Zuckerberg
basically
frictionless,
doing the most
creative
talking.
collaboration.
Yeah,
Get ready, folks.
but they
You are
do
in
have
good
2
hands with the
billion
one and
active
only
daily
Terry
users.
White,
So
who, by the way, just celebrated 25 years helping the creative community learn how to use our product.
nice.
Congrats.
Thanks,
Wow.
Scott. I'm really
25.
excited. I can't wait to show this.
He's
Let's
got a
get to it.
baby face, though.
Photoshop.
He
is a
literally
great
looks like
tool
he's
for graphic
25.
designers and
So you've been doing it from
photographers,
birth.
just about everyone. But what makes it even
Wow.
better now is I can send my Photoshop
So
files
Does he have
out
one
to
of
my
the Does
stakeholders
he have one of
for
the new
review, for
MacBooks?
markup.
That's what I'm looking.
That's right.
With
We'll
the
check.
new Share To panel, I can just go ahead and click right here
What
in
is this,
Photoshop
Effect-
in the
After
upper right
Effects?
corner, and I can get a public link. This way I can share it via email,
what this is.
Slack, social media, direct message, however I want. Now, if I head over to my web browser, you'll notice that the link loads in the browser. This is exactly what my
Look
clients
at
would
that
do.
image.
Wow.
So they get the ability to see the information about the document, but best of all, they get a comments panel where they can go in and leave their comments. So for example, I can say, looks good. But if they want to get very specific, they can click on the pen tool. I can click right on the astronaut's face shield, and I can say something like remove the reflections. Now, what if they need to do more than just dropping a pen? They want to illustrate something. So here's an actual pen tool, and they can
Holy
draw
cow.
right on the canvas. Flip over. Okay, these comments have been left, and they're tied and associated with the cloud document. That means they travel with the cloud document anywhere that it goes, whether it's Photoshop on desktop or even Photoshop on iPad. I can
And
click
that's a
right on
pretty-
the brand new
That's sort of
comment
an
panel.
elevated version
I'll
of a
see those
standard
comments
tool
come
for
right in as they
collaboration.
just did. So I
Mhm.
can see not
Goes
only
around
the comments,
creative.
but
It's not
I
like
actually see the
dramatically
markup right on
different.
the
It's
Photoshop
just
document, which is awesome.
using it for
But
this.
what if I actually
Yeah,
need to
just
share
to
this
foster
file
collaboration
with
amongst
someone who needs
creatives.
to work
Yep.
on it? I need to share it with another retoucher or another designer. Well, if I go back to the Share To menu, you'll notice that I have the option to also share this via email. So I can key in the person's email address, send it to them, and be very specific with the kind of link that they're going to get. And it will load into the same view that you saw before for the reviewers, but you'll notice in the upper right-hand corner, I've got a choice for open in. And I'm very happy for the first time to give you a look at Photoshop Web Beta. This is an extension of Photoshop that allows users to do reviews, markup, and quick edits on the fly in the browser. We can see some familiar tools on the left-hand side, especially if you've used Photoshop on the iPad. I see my cloud
wonder,
document.
how
front
do
and
they
center, ready to
optimize
go.
that for
I see all my layers
the
on the
web?
right-hand
I mean,
side,
that's not
and I still have the comments panel.
necessarily
So as
going
I
to work
click
that
on or
smoothly.
hover over the various comments,
I
we
mean,
can
this is
actually
Yeah.
see them
graphics.
on
You're
the
moving
canvas.
graphics
Now,
either
again,
way. I
this
don't
is
care
for
what
doing
it is.
quick edits.
What
So
it
let's
is.
get to
A
it.
quick
I'll
edit
go
or
ahead and move
slow
our
edit.
astronaut
You're
over.
moving a
Let's go ahead and pick
graphic
her up,
across the web, which
move
is
her
a
over
lot
little
of
bit,
data
and
that's
to address
dependent on
one
your
of those
bandwidth.
comments, I'm going to do a little bit of a scale, proportionally, of course.
Well,
And
that's
let's
cool.
do a
That
flip
is
over.
cool.
And I want to remove those reflections. So I'll grab my content-aware spot healing brush, and I need to make my brush bigger. And without thinking about it, I just use my bracket keys just like I would in Photoshop on desktop. So we'll go ahead and remove those reflections quickly and easily. And again, this is great for doing these kind of quick edits. Next up, I'm going to grab my quick selection tool, and let's go ahead and make a quick selection of the face shield because I want to add a little bit of
Now,
color
this
to it.
is
So we'll
currently
use our
one
hue and
person
saturation adjustment
doing
layer,
edits
and that way
Right.
it's
that
non-destructive.
everybody else can see.
And I
So
can
it's
make
not
my
like
adjustments just like that.
dual
Now, again, all of
collaboration
these
going
Right.
on.
It's
adjustments
not.
I'm
It's
gonna
really
do,
right. You're
all
right.
the
It's
layers
not
I'm
really
affecting
collaboration.
are
It's
being
just
saved as a
editing
cloud
via the
document.
web,
And best of
a
all,
browser
if I need
interface.
to do more,
Right. They're
I
making
can
it
always
available to
open
people to
this
see it.
in
But
Right.
Photoshop
And
on
I
the
guess
desktop
does
to
he
get
say
access to all
there's
the power of
comments? I
Photoshop,
don't see
all
any
my tools,
comments
all
on
my
that.
filters,
yeah,
everything
you
I
can
would
leave
ever need.
comments.
So that was a quick look at Photoshop on the web.
Photoshop on the web.
I mean, that's good, but it's, again, not earth-shaking.
I mean, Photoshop is such a chunky.
Yeah.
You can't do all the deep stuff.
I'm always really impressed with what they do with Sensei, and I'd like to see more of that, hopefully before this is over.
Do they do a lot with Sensei on the Creative Cloud side?
Well, he mentioned it in the beginning, so the answer is I think so. Because if you think about what they're doing with Sensei on the Experience Cloud, is actually mostly stuff with Lightroom and Photoshop. Really, it's just that it's tied directly to campaigns and things like that.
Okay, your eyes did not deceive you. You can now access Photoshop files anywhere. You can give feedback and even make
that's
edits
cool.
anywhere with a web browser. This opens so many.
And by the way, I
possibilities.
have to say that
Now,
their
keep in mind,
sets are
bringing
awesome.
30 years of Photoshop
Oh, they look
features
great.
Sets,
to a new
oh my
platform like
God,
the web
they're so
is a journey.
good.
But we are
Well,
starting
he
now.
looks like
And
he's
starting today. we're
actually
extending
in a-
Photoshop to
Yeah,
the
well,
web.
Shantanu did
Let's
too.
face it,
I mean, it's
we'll be
just
adding more
amazing what they're
capabilities
doing
over the
there.
coming months, guided
You know
by
what
your
else is
feedback.
amazing?
You know, for more than 2
Alan
decades,
Tucker is
you
with
needed a
us right
pretty
There
powerful
he
computer
is,
to
our
product in
man.
Photoshop. Then
How you
2
guys
years
doing
ago, we
today?
launched Photoshop
Good.
on
Oh
an
man,
iPad,
my face is
expanding
covered
creative
up.
power to
Some
a
might
mobile
say
device.
that's probably
So we are
for the
thrilled
best.
to
But
now make
I'm
Photoshop
gonna take this
available
way
to
anyway.
millions
logo
more
down.
You
people
put it in the
around
bottom left
world
corner or
on
something?
the web. This
Nah,
simply would
we know
not be
who we are.
possible without our partnership with the Chrome team at Google. I'm excited to have Hiroshi Lockheimer from Google here so we can talk more about
Oh,
how we're
he's from
working together
Google,
on the
okay.
future of
That's
web
also
apps.
the universal
Hiroshi, thanks for
sponsor
joining us.
here
So
at
I know many people at Google have
Constellation
jumped in to
CCE?
help
Google.
us extend Photoshop
No,
onto
Google,
Really?
the
yeah,
browser,
their main,
and this
it's
is an
universal
ongoing
sponsor,
journey, and we
and
really
their
appreciate
entire
the help.
sponsorship
So why
logo
are
is
these efforts a
that
priority for
Google
Google?
Scott, first of
logo,
all, thanks
that
for having
round
us,
thing.
and thanks for the
It looks like a
partnership.
third
We
eye,
appreciate it. So
right?
this is so
And it's, you
important
basically
because
have
when
this
you
third
think
eye
about the
staring at you.
evolution
And
of the web,
I told someone,
we've gone from
for some
pretty
reason, I'm
static
compelled to say I
news
hate
sites,
Bing.
web pages, things like that, to maybe cat videos,
Wow.
and then maybe it was slightly more dynamic applications. Remember the first time you used a map on the web and it was dynamic and responsive. And now people want to create
The
documents.
early days
they
of
want
the
to
web.
create things, and so
Simpler
an
times.
app like Photoshop is so important for the web.
I wonder where this is
changes to web
shot.
technology, processing power, and just generally the
Looks like
way
some kind
software
of
is
massive
developed these days,
stage.
the scope of what people will be able to accomplish on the browser is really growing.
But I bet it's
What do you
not.
see as the future of web apps?
It's
Where are
the
we going?
Adobe Cloud, the
Yeah, well,
actual
a number
cloud.
of things.
In
We've
the cloud.
added a
They're
lot of
in the cloud.
capabilities to the web, which you are now using, like Web GPU or WebAssembly. These things make it more performant. These very complicated things, complicated behind the scenes, but as a user, of course, you're just accomplishing more. And then also, sharing, I think, is such an intrinsic part of the web. Everything's a URL. Everything can be shared. And we think that could really change the workflow of how people use Photoshop.
So a big part of our mission at Adobe is to bring creativity to all. How do you see the shift to web apps empowering all kinds of people around the world in new ways?
Well, I think, with the web,
apps,
because
man.
the device you're
Doing that in a
using
while.
may not need to be as powerful as the thing that you're trying to accomplish. So I think there's a big sort of democratizing aspect to this, different capabilities in the hardware, but the web apps still work. Maybe you can do more things in the data center. So that opens up the possibilities. Also, the fact that you don't have to install an app, that takes away friction that I think a lot of people feel. So hopefully this really opens up Photoshop to so many more people.
Well, we're excited to work with you, Hiroshi, and thanks again.
I really like the idea of what you're doing here, but I also think it's
so we
kind of
discussed
table
the first
stakes.
two pillars of connected creativity.
Not
your
something
assets
that's like
and your apps.
dramatically giving
Now
them
let's
a
talk
big
about your team.
one up on
Whether
the
it is a
market
big
or anything.
campaign,
It's just,
a new
they kinda have
publication,
to have
or the
this.
end-to-end of a new product experience,
Yeah, not
how
not
well
in a
your team is
vacuum.
organized
not
and
alone.
aligned
It's-
Well, I
will
mean,
determine your
and
impact.
the reality is,
In the old world of
they
creativity,
went to the
teams
place
got
they had to
organized
go to
using a
originally,
printer,
which is
gallons of
mobile.
ink, and a
That was where
wall.
they had to go first.
Teams
With
printed out all the
brush
latest
and
iteration
things
of
like
their work
that.
and posted it all up. And of course, these versions were outdated from the moment they were printed. Creative teams got aligned by walking around together with red pens and Post-it notes. That system worked, sort of. But the world has changed. Now, creative teams are frequently spread around the globe. There may be a handful of people working simultaneously on a single asset. And everyone from the C-suite to legal may want to review a project. Organization for creativity is in dire need of an upgrade. So we spent the last few years imagining a better way, a way that brings all of the content and people involved together with a shared context, and all without leaving your creative tools. We call these features Creative Cloud Spaces and Canvases. They are coming to Creative Cloud early next year, but we're going to give you a sneak peek right now. Here to demonstrate Creative Cloud collaboration in action is our Director of Product, Zarana G. Zarana.
They're
Ready to show
actually
everyone what
available
your
on
team
the
is working on?
on the beta
Yeah, let's
side
do it.
of
I'm working
Creative
on my
Cloud
Microsoft
now.
Surface Pro here
'Cause I
in
was
the
playing with
browser
it the
in a
other day.
space. And a space is essentially a shared project that allows me
Her
to
n-
have
I
all
like
my
her first
content
name,
together,
Zorana.
as well as all my team members.
Part of the
Now, we're
DC
working on this very
multiverse.
Max campaign here,
It-
and I have content that
it
really
could
spreads
fit.
across bitmap images,
That's a
as well as
superhero's
Adobe
name,
native files like
Zorana.
CSV and AI files.
She
And
probably
even
is
here, we have
at
web
Adobe.
links that
Yeah,
link
that
out
was
to
interesting. Look at
services
that.
we're
That's
working
the
with.
actually view that they show
At
you
the
in
top
the
here, we have
beta.
libraries. I can go ahead and click into the
It
library
ties
that we
into
just saw Bree show.
Word docs and
You can
everything
see I have
else.
the font types, the brand assets, the colors, etc. Essentially, I have all the content together in a single place. Now, let me go ahead and add Brian here, Brian Yap, who's working on our social posts. And remember, as a member of the space, he has the ability to access all the content and get started quickly.
Yep.
And this is where I'm excited to introduce the new Creative Cloud Canvas. Here you can see Creative Cloud Canvases
Solid.
are essentially an infinite whiteboards that allows me to visualize all these assets, right,
Wow.
in a single place. You can see there's Photoshop content, Illustrator content, as well as projects that are in different phases, comments, stickers, whatnot.
This is
and
also
essentially
quite
my entire
overdue.
team can stay aligned.
Mhm. I was
I can,
thinking
of
the same
course,
thing.
access that shared
There's
project, the
a
spaces that I was
company
just
out there
in.
that's called Mural,
And I
and
can add any of
they
the files
really
here.
emphasize this whiteboard,
Let's go ahead
digital
and add this
whiteboard
VST
collaboration
file. And
technology.
the really
And
cool thing about Adobe native files,
If I remember
that when I
correctly,
place
and
them on
I'm not
Canvas,
100%
they're
sure I
actually
do,
linked files.
SAP
And
Jam
they're
before
always
SAP
source.
sunsetted was a
They get
Samir's
updated,
project on
I can see updates here on
collaboration.
the canvas, and I can always
Best
be
collaboration
sure that I
platform I
have
ever
the
had
latest
had the whole
updates.
whiteboard
But if I
it
want to
did.
access
thing
I
it
already
remember
built in.
seeing
well,
pictures and
that's easy
snapshots
enough
of
to
that
do.
too.
I can
That's
just
right.
simply right click on this and open this in Photoshop on web or the desktop. Now, if I don't have files in Creative Cloud, that's certainly not a problem, as you would expect. I can easily drag in
Notice
any content
one guy
from
was
my
using a
local drive
Mac and she's
directly onto
using
Canvas,
Windows.
like so.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, I
This
didn't
next
notice,
part,
but
what I
yeah.
want to do is actually carve out a little section here so that Brian can add his social posts. On the left-hand side here, you can see I have a bunch of everyday tooling.
The only
that's
thing
used
about
to
this, which
really lay
was a
out
little
visuals
bit,
of content and
I remember
organize
thinking this when I was
way.
looking at
And really cool thing with fonts
collaboration
that is integrated
spaces
with
too,
Adobe fonts.
Canvas
So
and
we have
spaces,
thousands of fonts to
is
choose
it's
from.
messy.
Really important for different levels of expressivity.
It's kind of messy.
But for this
I mean,
particular
it's
part,
sort of, it's not
duplicate this
absolutely
text layer.
random, but it
Let's
looks
go ahead
very
and
random the way
social
everything's
posts.
placed, and it's
And the other
not
thing
that.
I'm going to do is add a comment.
I think
and
there was just
let
something
Brian
about
know.
the feel of it that made me
Brian,
think,
please add
wow,
your
it's like
social
kind of all
post.
over the place with where everything is
All
put.
right. Really
I
cool
used to
thing
feel
here
the
about
same way.
comments is that we have
And when I was starting to use
comments that can be
Mural, I
associated
mean,
with
sorry, I
any
give these
object
guys a
on
plug all the
Canvas.
time, but
So when
the
Brian joins, we'll
messiness
know exactly
like
where to
kind of
go.
goes away,
All
and
right,
you
now
start
as I
to
mentioned earlier,
zoom in
this
on what you
canvas is
need.
created inside of
And
a space.
for those,
In
and
fact,
for the
I
folks
see
that
that
I
Brian has already
worked
joined.
with who were
You can
using
see
this
his
kind of
cursor
whiteboard
here,
to
his presence
collaborate
here.
with,
He's moving
they
about
were
the
not
canvas.
typically like
It looks
whiteboard,
like he
big
got that
whiteboard
comment,
players, and
and
they
he's adding
really
a
weren't as
social
overwhelmed
post.
as I thought
This
they
is
would be.
real-time
And
co-editing
they
with
thought,
Adobe files.
now this is all anecdotal,
All
right?
right,
But
these are
but
looking
what
pretty
they
good
really
here.
loved
Let's
is
go ahead
if
and
you
let him
were
know
if you're
that on
coming
the
into
line with
this
what the
new,
direction
it
that
will
he's
look
moving,
messy,
drop in a
but
sticker
it gives you
here.
kind of like
And again,
a
this is
very
all live, right? So
sort of
he's
a
going to get that
tactile way
comment
to
and know
explore
that
a
these are looking
project that
good.
you really
Now,
can't
I'm
get
looking at
out
this
of
a little bit
looking at a
closer
bunch
and
of
realizing
Word
that he
documents
forgot
or
to add one
PowerPoint
of his social
presentations,
posts that
right?
I want him to
Right.
include. And another really
And so that
great
was
thing is that
surprising,
local
that
call.
kind of
And
feel that you
anybody,
have in doing that.
collaborator on this canvas
And
can
then when
join.
you're working with it, it's kind of cool that you're working with other
Hey, Brian.
people,
It's
like
That
you
is
would on a
really cool.
whiteboard
Add
with a
that
bunch of
post that
post-it
we're
notes,
working
right?
on
Which is
last
the
night.
inspiration for that.
Oh yeah, sure, no problem.
I like
I'll have it over to
this.
you in a second.
That's pretty sweet.
Awesome. Thank
Yeah.
you. Bye. All right.
Wow.
So while Brian is adding
Got
that,
his
I can
5
see that
seconds
things
of
are looking
fame.
pretty good. And at
Yeah.
this point, I think I'm ready to share this
I mean,
out
this
with
is
Scott,
all
our
you need.
stakeholder.
You
All I
need to be
to do
showcasing
is
for a
click
remote
this
collaboration.
copy link,
This is
and I can share that with
So
Scott. And when
so
he's
that's
ready, he can
effectively
join.
also
And he can
Mural's
feel assured that he has
interface,
the latest
this
and greatest.
thing.
Very
And
similar,
that's
yeah.
the next generation of collaboration with Creative Cloud spaces and canvases for all creative teams.
It's really, I mean, on the whole, it's a
Thank you,
great
Zorana.
thing. And
So I hope
takes-
it's now clear what we mean
Must
when we
need,
talk
yeah,
about the future of connected creativity. Your assets, images, fonts, brushes are always in sync and at your fingertips within
Now, I
Creative
wonder
Cloud
how much-
libraries. Your apps
because this
are
is
able to
definitely
save cloud
geared toward
documents that are
creatives for
accessible anywhere
collaboration.
on
I
desktop,
wonder how
mobile
much
devices,
businesses takes
starting
away from from
today
like
in a
Teams
browser
and
with the
Zoom,
extension of Photoshop
who
to the web.
are more
And your
generic
team will be able to
collaboration
get
tools, where
organized
this
and
is
aligned with
definitely more
Creative Cloud
specific to
spaces.
this.
Well, again, you know what? To
launching
your
next
to the
year.
that point
As
is what we
creative
were talking
people,
about a little
we make
earlier,
our
which
greatest
was
impact when we are
how they're
connected
going to take
and working
that
together seamlessly.
and tie it into the marketers on the digital experience cloud end is really going to be important. Because this right now, you're right, this is focused strictly on the front end. creators, but not on the marketers who are on the back end creating the campaigns from this, and who are also, possibly even some of the creators, but working in a different place.
So do we know if anybody from the Workfront side of Adobe is going to be talking today?
The answer
Not
is
sure about the keynote.
right. They do talk about. There's a whole lot of actual.
Because I imagine, their process and workflow and management behind
Why
the
they bought
scenes
them.
would be all that.
Yeah.
Right.
This is, I remember when they first were bought, people were like, "Well, why did they buy them?" But this is
No, it makes
this is
So much
complete
sense. Yeah. I was like,
Adobe. I will
buy
say
more Adobe stock, right? And that was like,
but Adobe's acquisitions are really generally.
They've always
smart.
been great.
Yeah,
Yeah.
really smart.
I can't think of a bad one really. They've always had and sometimes they bought things that it didn't connect right away, but in a little bit of time, it's like, oh, now it makes sense.
I can think of one I think was a great acquisition, but very annoying one, which is Omniture, just judging by the way it works. Right?
Yeah, but that's
That
like
is-
the foundation of the creative.
no, I
cloud.
know
They
it
bought-
totally is, but one and the analytics part, right?
Yeah.
It's just it's very annoying because
it was the right one to make. But
Right? No,
it's-
no. Again, it was a wise acquisition. It's just it annoyingly breaks.
It's like, upon this rock we will build our.
ZDNet actually uses Omniture to give data on views and the like, and it
Next up,
constantly
let's talk
breaks.
about unleashing creativity.
Alan, if you pop up Alan's comment,
We're
he's
excited to show
all
you
right
some of
about
the
that.
many
Absolutely
innovations
correct.
throughout Creative Cloud. Let's start with finding great
Because it gets
component parts,
messy.
like
Speaking of messy,
Yeah.
it gets
video
messy
footage,
really
audio
fast.
tracks.
Organization
So-
Where
making.
so
Yeah.
many creative projects start.
On
where we
Alan's
squander
point,
so much of our time. Shambhavi
keep in
Kadam
mind,
is here to show
Experience
you how Adobe
Cloud's
Stock
Experience
is making it
Manager
incredibly easy
(AEM)
to find just the
started
assets.
as a digital asset
Shambhavi.
management tool, and it is
Hi,
a
I'm
big
Shambhavi
one,
Kadam from the Adobe
and it
Stock
was
team.
really good at what it
Today,
did. So
I
the
wanna share with
governance
you what's
aspect
new
on
with Adobe
that
Stock.
is not a
Adobe
problem
Stock
for
is
them.
the most
Standardization
comprehensive
usage
collection
might
of
be, but
high-quality
the governance
creative
side
assets,
is not. It was a
including
great.
photos,
It wasn't
vectors,
actually an
illustrations,
experience manager
templates,
at the time.
3D
Now it is.
assets, videos,
But it was a
and
digital
audio
asset
tracks.
management
Today,
tool,
we're
and
launching
it was a
some new
terrific one.
AI-powered
And
search
but
features that
was
make it
misnamed.
easier to
Now
find the
it's
right
not.
videos and music for your projects.
And that,
Now, in
of
searching
course,
for videos,
operates
you
at
can filter
scale
by shot size
with
or
all the
shot
companies
angle.
that are using
Oh, yeah.
that.
We've also made it easier to
I
find
remember a
the
demo
audio
of
track for your project.
AEM once that was
Just
amazing.
upload an
They
example
literally
song
live
and start to
changed
find
those
results that are
big
similar based on
billboards
traits
in
like
Times
genre,
Square
mood,
with the
and
videos
tempo.
running all the time in
Our
New
AI
York.
search
They
tools
literally
can also
changed one of
find
them
similar
live
images.
from Utah.
Upload an image and
Wow.
They
search
just
based
basically
on color
moved the
palette,
asset,
composition,
and then all of
or
a sudden the
content.
screen
You can
changes
even
live in New
move
York.
and
It
resize
was
the
an
object
amazing
in it.
demo.
So
With almost
she
1
just talked
million
about
creative
a
assets
search
to choose
in
from,
Adobe
it's
Stock on
easier than
audio.
ever to
That's pretty
start
sweet.
creating.
It
Get
actually
started for
works
free
really, really
inside your
well.
favorite
So
Creative
you
Cloud
basically
Oh, do you
app
use
find like
Adobe
a little
Stock?
sliver
Stock.adobe.com.
of audio,
Thanks,
and it can
Shambhavi.
find similar
You
clips
might have
in
thought
similar.
Wow.
It actually
Wow.
works
web
remarkably
browser
well.
with
Yeah.
enough innovation.
Yeah,
for
and
the
then you'll
year.
get inspiration
That's not
because
how
it
the
does,
Photoshop
it's machine
rolls.
learning, right? So it's going to
Terry
have
White
its
is returning to show you some
deviations
amazing new
away
ways
from
for using
whatever.
Adobe
But
Sensei
it's pretty
to make
sweet.
it more efficient
It's
and provide some new
it's
creative
underrated, especially
superpowers.
if you're doing a lot of
After
audio,
that,
kind
Pinjin
of
Sun will join us to
collaboration
show
work.
some really cool new features for Fresco.
They
Who does
enjoy
that?
it,
How to
right?
add motion to
What?
what you create.
Said who
We're
does
going to
audio
start by hearing
collaboration?
from
Nobody.
members of the Photoshop
No, I'm
team
just
Yeah.
about how they've navigated the past year and their optimism for the year to come.
This is my work, the butterfly.
We look blurred. Is that normal?
Is that
It's
normal?
been
That's
the
actually
year
funny.
that's taught me the most about
Yeah, it's
getting
just I'm
in touch
constantly
with myself and
groggy.
my community.
I did a poster that
Does her name
I
Love
sold
is?
to raise money for
I think
bartenders
so.
directly and service
Wow.
people in my neighborhood. People seeing that drawing and being like, "We will stay strong."
I started streaming on Behance this year and having a one-on-one connection.
Streaming
is
on
Wait,
so
Behance.
yeah, exactly. It just
Just a
caught
more-
me by surprise.
started to think
Streaming
about
on
what is our
Behance.
ownable story that we can
Well, why
create
not? It's a
and have
community.
complete control
It's like
over
LinkedIn.
rather than just create work. for
I'm
somebody
wondering what
else.
she means by streaming on Behance then.
I think it's like streaming on LinkedIn Live, like we're
LinkedIn
doing it's
Live.
for that
Yeah.
audience. Yeah.
What
It's
I'm
wild.
doing now is doing what I can with my unique skill set, my personality, in order to make the world a better place.
I want to heal
Love is that a
people
what a
with my
name?
artwork.
What I try to do is to
Parents
of
of
my
my generation.
peace, love, and positivity to people who need it.
Okay, I want those glasses.
I think it is important for
I
us
want the
to,
round. Like I saw 2-3 people with them in this series alone.
Nicole.
They probably make them in Adobe.
I get this
It's
feeling
another
of,
Adobe
like,
opticians.
you've been trying to take a moment.
Adobe Optical. Adobe Optical.
Into 3 years.
Community collaboration
Let's just be
in
with ourselves and each other.
specs.
Adobe Optical. Design your own
way.
eyewear.
I'm trying to think. Do I like Zoranda better or Love is as a name here? It's
I'm really
interesting
excited
names.
to show you
Kind of
Or Terry.
got that
Terry's a good name
superhero,
too.
superhero thing going.
Making selections is a big part of using Photoshop. And you might go back to the days of using the magic wand tool where you click and it selects based on colors.
It's kind of cool how they're
Last year, we
weaving in
introduced
tips
the amazing object
and
selection
little
tool. And this year we're making it even
actual
better.
tactical
So if I
stuff
take
with
the object
big
selection
picture
tool
stuff.
and you drag around an object, it will just basically make that selection.
This is pretty
for you.
sweet too.
However, you'll notice that when I deselect and I just simply hover over the objects, it identifies them, and all I have to do is simply click. If I want to
Wow.
add to that selection, I can hold down the Shift key and click. And if I want to subtract from that selection, if I hold down my Option or Alt key, for example, I can subtract the flame. Now that I got the flame subtracted, the next thing that I want to do
I mean,
is
these things are
adjust the
incredible,
color
but
of these candles.
you also think about
So I'll head over
what
to my
this
layers
can do,
panel,
what
where I've got the
can
ability to
happen
add
if it
a
gets
hue
into the
and
hands of the wrong
saturation
people.
adjustment layer, like that.
It's like
Now that's
pictures
great.
that
But wait,
somebody was
there's
in
more.
it is now
If
not
I go
in
to
it.
the original background, and I
Wait a minute, I was there.
That's happened well before digital media, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
but you know what? I mean,
Now
think
it's
about
easier. Anybody can
Photoshop.
do it.
Those red
Being
rooms, they were.
Photoshopped has like a negative
as
connotation.
if I'd gone
I know
through
the
one by
Photoshop.
one
Yeah.
Being
without
called,
selecting
it's called special effects, Brent.
Yeah, right.
Oh yeah, it's
in the
called
layers panel.
my
Saving you
my
time.
alibi is not showing up.
Great addition.
I was actually there, folks.
Auto masking in the object.
No, this
selection.
is really my Braves World
Next
Series
up,
ticket. It
let's
actually
head
is
over to
legitimate.
one of my near-and-dear favorites for people that
If
work with
look, it doesn't get any
Illustrator.
game, just
I've
turn
got
it into an
empty canvas
NFT and
here.
sell it.
I've got an Illustrator file created by artist Victoria Pavlov, and you'll notice that she made lots of layers in this file. So I'll just drag my selection tool around
You know, I got into
everything,
Photoshop
and
when
I'll just do a copy.
you remember
Now, when I head over
Dreamweaver?
to
So
Photoshop,
Yeah, of
Macromedia.
course.
Oh yeah,
hey, I
Macromedia.
get
Yeah,
something
That was
new.
Macromedia was
I
the
get the
first.
option to
You know,
bring
that's
it
what
in
really
as
what
layer.
got me into
So when I click
Adobe's
OK, it
radar
brings over
was
all
a
my
company
layers
that was
to
purely for the
nicely
creative
organized
folks,
in
just,
layer
you know,
groups.
branching
If I
out
go to,
into
for example, the base
digital.
layer, and I go to my direct
you
selection
know,
tool
a
here
huge
in
interesting
Photoshop and double
introspection.
click, I even get
You know,
the
where they were
ability
headed, and
to edit
to
the
y'all's point,
vector
I mean, they
shapes
just
that
made
it creates.
acquisitions since then.
So I don't have
But
to go back
Yeah.
to
That was
I
a
Illustrator.
went
great
back and used
acquisition.
Photoshop
The new
again, like more
interoperability
recently, and there's things that are
between
so much more
Illustrator and
easier.
Photoshop, which would be
But
great for
you
anyone
still have to
doing
know
design work
so much
between
about
the two.
Photoshop still.
Right.
Now,
Like, I
last
mean,
year we made a
thank
big deal
goodness
about
there's so many tools
AI-based
and YouTube
neural
videos,
filters.
and I
And
mean, you
this
can
year
learn a
we're
lot
taking it up a notch with
In the
not only
Behance
new
community.
filters, but
in the Behance
improvements as well.
community. Right?
I've got this
In the
landscape
newsletters, they
that's
send
kind
out
of
news. I
barren
mean,
in the
They
foreground.
do a good job with that.
Now,
Right?
last
Yeah,
year
they
we
do a
made
great
a big
job
deal
with it.
about AI-based neural filters.
Okay,
And
here we
this year
go.
we're taking it up a notch with not only new filters, but improvements as well. I've got this
It already
landscape
does.
that's kind of
That's
barren in the
starting to
foreground.
happen today in
I wish it
some
were a little
like
more green.
arenas now.
So if I go to my neural filters, I've got a new neural filter.
Not
It's
major
called
sports players yet,
Landscape
but
Mixer. When I click on Landscape Mixer, it gives me choices. I can use one of the preset photos.
This is also, I
I
think,
can click on
integrated
custom and
into
use one of my own
AEM
photos. And I
in,
even have season sliders at the
Experience
bottom.
Cloud.
So I see a nice green photo
I
in
am
the
looking
preset.
to see
I'll
the
just click on
integration
it,
points
and it takes
between the
my
two.
photo and
They haven't
shown
calculates
it
and
yet.
adds all
Not
that
yet.
greenery into it. And that's great. But wait a minute.
And I'm also waiting for Tim
It's
Cook to
fall.
come on stage and
I
say,
don't need it to
yes,
be
and
so well, now I can
He'll
just
announce an
drag
all the-
iPod, the Adobe iPod.
say in the 30 to 40%
all the Adobe
range,
products will run on the
and it will
M1 Max
calculate
chip.
what's there and
natively.
give me those fall colors on my scene. All right, next up, my personal favorite, my mom and dad. A black and white picture, an old picture of my mom and dad. And I would love to colorize this. I've spent hours, weeks, months.
The reason I keep
colorizing
freezing,
old
by the
photos
way, is
before.
my
Well,
other
now if I
computer
go to
keeps
neural
going into
filters,
sleep
I
mode.
get the option
Oh no.
to choose the new improved colorized neural filter, which figures out skin
That's pretty
tones.
cool.
It's better
Nice.
for portraits now than it ever was. So
Wow.
just with one click, I get a great head
That
start
is
to my
cool.
Technicolor
colorization
in a
process,
caption.
or it
in
might
a-
even
in
be
a
the
program.
final result.
amazing.
That is
Either
really
way, I've got a
something.
layer to continue working on if I want to do more. Now, colorize isn't just for people. It also works great for landscapes. If I go into this landscape, for example, and I go to my filter menu, come down to neural
It's so
filters,
funny that
and
it
go
used to be cool to
colorize,
put things into black and white,
it will,
and now
again,
it was
identify
cool to
everything
take
in the
things from
scene
black and
and
white
apply colors to it.
into
But in
color.
this case, it
then
gets
back
a
into
little
black and
long
white
to
with the
stop.
filters.
I like
Now
that
we're
brown
going back to,
color.
Look
hey,
at
take the
that.
black and white thing and turn it
So
into
all I have to
Holy
do is
crap.
use the new feature in the
That
right-hand
is
corner for
amazing.
focal points.
There's another
I'm
product that
in the
does that
sky.
insanely
And up comes the
well and
color palette,
automatically called
allowing me to choose what color
Lumina
that area
Pro, I
of the
think.
sky should
Lumina,
be.
I
So I
can't
just
remember
choose
what
the
it is. I
color
have
that I
it
want,
actually, and it's
and it
really
instantly
quick.
changes the sky to
All
that color.
AI driven.
And those are just a
Is it
few of my
photographs or
favorite
videos?
features in Photoshop.
Photographs.
Be sure to check out my breakout session where I go through a lot more. Cheers, everyone.
Hi, I'm Jinjin from Adobe's design team. Today, I'm excited to share the latest updates to Adobe Fresco, our drawing and painting app for iPads, iPhones, and Windows 10 PCs.
Almost,
Let's see
guys.
what's new. Fresco now has adjustment
there.
layers. Make it
Yeah.
easy to non-destructively adjust
I
the
am
color
merely
and value of
envious
your
and
work.
jealous.
These
That's
can be
pretty much
modified
my
whenever you
mood
want,
of today.
including in Photoshop, making it easy to harmonize your color palette and tweak it however you like. We've also added perspective grids, which make it easy to draw in 1, 2, or 3-point perspective.
Oh,
Once you set your vanishing points, your brush marks will automatically snap to the grid.
Oh, they snapped
And
to
you're
it.
not limited to simple lines. Fresco's drawing aids
That
are
is
also
really
traceable
cool.
in perfect perspective.
unbelievable.
Next up, Fresco is making simple animation just as easy as drawing and painting with new motion features. It's simple and intuitive.
Look at that.
Make motion frame by frame by
Of course,
using
to
the
actually use
timeline
this
with
tool well,
onion
you
splitting.
actually have to have some
Or
graphic
put your
talent,
work on a
which I
path
don't.
and take
Oh,
advantage
come
of
on.
tons of options
Really?
like adding multiple,
We need
scattering,
that?
and more. Combine
Can it
frame by
just
frame
do
motion
it for
with
us?
paths to get some amazing effects.
That's where you go in the app and
Join our
hire
breakout
somebody,
sessions
right?
to
Wasn't
learn
that
even more about Fresco.
Before I hopped
Thank
on,
you.
I think I heard something along those lines. A great little
Thank
The
you.
community.
Terry.
Yeah.
Go to
Among
Behance.
all the innovations in Terry's demo,
It's
I
like
hope
the
you
answer to
noticed how
everything.
quickly
Yeah, right,
the
exactly.
AI-driven
Behance.
transformation
Answer to
happened.
What
everything.
time is it?
As you
Behance.
mentioned, over the last year, we've worked
What's the
hard
meaning
to
of
get
life?
apps like Photoshop,
You find it on
Illustrator,
Behance.
Monty
Pro,
Python and
Lightroom,
the meaning of
more
Behance.
running
42
natively on
Behance.
Apple's
The
M1
holy
chips.
Behance.
And the
Monty
result?
Python and the holy Behance.
Uh-oh. Oh, I get a phone call coming in. That's what happens when I freeze.
Ah. Okay, Scott, we're back to you.
Incredible.
That's,
Photoshop is
Don't
running
people know what I'm doing?
Yeah, I said we're back to you, and he goes, "That's incredible."
Which means you can go almost instantly from inspiration to expression.
It's our pleasure.
And I hope any of you who haven't tried Fresco yet, fix that today.
So far, I've
Fresco
seen
is
everything
download.
that's
You
much
use an
more
iPad,
geared toward
Surface tablet,
creative,
Wacom Mobile Studio
hardcore
Pro,
creative
and
professionals, right?
And it
Yeah,
is
which
the
is
only
I
pretty
still
much.
Well, that's
pro-level
what it's
drawing and
everyday
painting
creators.
app
Like, how
that
can you
works in
enable
the
it
cloud.
to everyday
You can
creators,
start a
people who are
project on
not
your
as
phone
graphic
and
design?
pick
You
up
know,
on your iPad or
that's
another device.
to your point.
There's a lot more to
That's
learn
a place
about
where they're a
Fresco
little
at our
bit on the weak
illustration
side, really. I mean,
sessions
they
over
think
the next few days.
use Lightroom instead of Photoshop, and that's like for the lesser creators, right? And Lightroom is not that much easier than Photoshop, right? So
Okay, let's keep moving.
I agree with you. I
Design
think
is
that's
such a
they do
powerful
need to
force
do
today.
something.
It shapes how we
And to
interact
Alan's
with nearly
point, it's
everything.
actually, you
From
know,
the
he's
apps
talking
we
about audio
use,
collaboration.
websites we visit, to the
TikTok's
companies we do
video
business
tools
with.
are for
From
everyday
Accenture to
creators.
T-Mobile
And
to
they're
No,
Carnegie
simple.
Hall.
They're very
More
not
all you
going
have
to
to-
do assist us by any
all you have to
stretch.
do is look at the videos. You know,
Yeah.
that's for anybody.
Yeah, but there's some really good. See, this is a product I've just
Poison
started
is
looking
here
into.
to
This is
show how
amazing.
XD is making it easier to work
Yeah,
together
I never
and
did
add new
anything
kinds
with
of
it.
content to your designs and prototypes. After that, Brian Yap will share how we're making design in Illustrator more efficient, more
I like
powerful,
the pace they're going
and
at.
available anywhere.
Oh, I think
I'm
that
Troy Vance, and I
level
lead
has
the
been
design
great.
team behind Adobe XD, the all-in-one UX UI design tool that's tightly integrated into Photoshop, Illustrator, and the rest of Creative Cloud. Let's have a look at what's new. On the collaboration front, Adobe XD now has first-class support for Creative Cloud spaces. So now it's incredibly easy for your whole design team to share work, manage your design system, and invite clients and stakeholders to access just what you want them to see. We've also been hard at work bringing more motion goodness into Adobe XD. Starting today, you can now import Lottie animations, which means you can bring in a ton of great vector animations from the huge community of Lottie creators working with After Effects.
Lottie?
And finally, video. You can now bring full motion video clips right into XD into your design.
Yeah.
You can even add
Yeah.
interactivity to these videos, making your designs even more dynamic than ever before.
Notice the
Those are
format.
just a few of the new
TikTok.
features that we've added to XD. So check out our breakout sessions to learn lots
And
more.
they just get a
Thank you.
cross over the billion
We're really excited
active
to share
user
with you
mark.
some new and updated
Yeah.
features in Illustrator. Now, starting with Illustrator on the iPad, I'm going to start off with the pencil tool. I'm going to turn the smoothing all the way up because I got a pretty shaky hand. And I'm just going to draw directly over my sketch. I can start and stop when I need to. And Illustrator really smooths out my lines.
This
as
is
I go.
Illustrator on an iPad.
and in just a short amount of
Or some
time,
sort of
I'm actually able to
device, right.
create my sketch as a vector path, which is just really cool because it's totally editable. So let's use simplify path to really smooth things out and get rid of some extra points that I
Wow.
don't need. I'm also going to go ahead and increase the stroke width and add rounded caps and corners to really match the style of lettering that I'm looking for. I like this. This is a great start. So what if I want to actually recreate something that's a little more complicated than that?
Yeah, well,
Like say
that's true.
this
600 a year.
drawing I did of a flower graphic. But instead of
Well,
actually
to
drawing it out
Adobe's
manually,
future,
use
they
Illustrator
should be
iPad's
thinking about a
newest
lesser set of
vectorize.
tools for
with just one
casual
button,
content
I'm
creators.
going to actually analyze my
They
sketch.
really
Well, they
should.
do the,
turn
you
it
can
into
do
a vector
one
graphic. So I'm going to change the color.
app at a time for what, $20 a month or something like that?
Yeah,
that's
but
right.
I'm talking
And
more
use
like
the
a
double
different tool
modifier.
set. Like
It's
the
a
closest thing they
duplicated into
seem to
my
have
design.
to that right now is Rush. The Premiere
This is
Rush.
starting to look good. But I definitely want to add in some shapes in
Didn't
the
they have
back.
like a
We're
Canva?
bringing over some familiar desktop features,
Canva
one of which is
competitor?
custom brushes.
That was an app. he's
They
working
did
on.
Kind of.
for a while,
For a
but
little
they
bit,
never
but
really
it didn't
pushed
work
it.
Right.
And I'm going to use that.
See, I don't think that they just
add in
have the
some
right
decorative elements to the
strength
background.
of community for that.
Now,
Or maybe they're just
drawing with a
waiting.
brush and
They
Illustrator
can
Well,
avoid
the
that.
idea is it opens a
doing
whole
it on
other
iPad
market
is
for them,
completely
really.
different
It
tools.
does, but when you think about the
So I'm gonna
Behance
grab the
community, those
lettering
folks are
here
passionate
and
Well,
about
you're talking,
graphics and
these are the
creators.
pros. I mean, it's truly the professional market.
And
You
They don't
know,
have
I'm gonna
a
change the
community
color so it
of
pops a little better.
casual
Okay,
No.
let's
creators.
go ahead and move to the
Yeah.
desktop.
I'm saying they could.
So my
You know,
file's
and
open on
that's the thing, though,
desktop.
right? And
First thing
I had
wanna
this
do
conversation with
is
somebody
just
about
add a little feature
with an
to
investor
the line
last week
brushes
about
themselves.
TAM,
I'm gonna
right? The total
grab
addressable
the
market.
spiral tool
Just because it
and
exists,
add a
if
few
you have
little fun
no
curly cues here and
real
there.
strength in it, or capacity to be able to
Maybe
Well,
one
think
over
of it
here,
from a slightly different standpoint,
and
though.
another one over here. Looks pretty good.
The end
What
user,
if I
the ones
want
who
to explore
consume the
3D
content
look in Illustrator?
from
Well, we've been
Adobe, which
rebuilding
is
and
most
enhancing
everybody,
3D features in
actually,
Illustrator. I'm gonna show you
a
some
lot of
features
them are would-be
available today
creators,
as a
and
technology preview.
Adobe's the name they're
You
already
can actually
gonna
go in
know.
and take your 2D object.
Adobe, on the other hand,
You can add dimension,
is how do I put this?
create depth,
Create this
use
side
really
is always
precise
in the
live on
let's call
canvas
it in
controls to move
stupid
and
market
rotate.
terms, B2C,
You can add lighting
meaning
effects.
it's a
I'm gonna go ahead and add a
consumer
drop shadow
mindset
here.
that drives it.
I'm actually going to raise
And
the
there's
height
no
of the
reason for
plate
them
source.
not
It's a little
to
less
address
dramatic.
that. We don't need a ton.
And
You
I'm
just
gonna
need
turn
a
on
few
ray
tools
tracing,
that are available
so you can
to
really
people
see those
to
high
make-
fidelity
and it's
3D
not like
effects in
they don't.
action.
Again, if you
And
take a
this
look
is a
at
vector object.
Premiere Rush
It has
and
a
just
fill
see
and a
what it
stroke.
is,
So
and you
just by
kind of see
simply
what they could
changing the stroke
do
color,
with this fairly
you can
simple
see that adds a
tool
cool
that
dimensional
will
effect to your
take a
3D
casual creator in mind.
I'm really digging where this is
I think
at.
the opportunity
So
is there.
now,
I
at
don't
this
know it's a
point, I'm gonna
priority,
share
but at
and
the
get
same time, I wouldn't.
So I can just copy a link here
Because again,
and send
5
it to
years from
anyone I
now,
want to see
we're
the
dealing
file.
with a different universe.
They'll
We're
be able
dealing
to
with
view this
millennials
project
and Gen
on Creative
Z
Cloud on the
in
web,
all
which is just the
owning
perfect
the
tool
stage.
for previewing
Right,
and giving feedback.
they're just a different
I can
breed
add
than
comments.
me
There's a
or-
comments window here.
Right, you're
I'm going to go ahead
you're
and
kind
use the
of
drawing tool
millennial.
to actually circle a little
Right,
section
so
here.
Right.
you're like upper millennial.
Upper low.
Leave myself a note here to fix the
Between
spacing.
boom and a millennial.
And once I hit submit, that comment is actually attached to my Creative Cloud document.
Or a bust like
anywhere
the
I
Gen
open up the
X's.
file, I'll be able to see the comments.
It depends on
So I
which
can
way
back
my
the
hat
desktop
turns, right?
and
If
open
it's
new comments.
backwards, it's sideways, or it's
I can see the
forward.
comment. But now what if I want to share the file with someone else to work on it? So I can go up to
That
invite
looks
to
great.
edit, and I can actually add
You
another.
know, he did that while we were talking.
I know.
That's right.
You can also open it in Illustrator on the web, which I'm really excited to show you a sneak of. And we'll be launching as a beta this year at Max. It's got a modern UI similar to Illustrator on the iPad. And you can see, because it's the Cloud Doc, my comments are actually in the file still. So I'm actually going to go ahead and fix the little spacing issue I saw earlier. I'll just move this up a little bit. And actually, I just noticed that one of these curly cues, I need to adjust a little bit. So you can see that I'm actually making edits to vector paths in a web browser. So cool. So now you can see that Illustrator is really evolving to let you work in exciting new ways, allow you to really push the limits of your creativity and work super fast. We're really excited. Can't wait to see what
That's
you
where
what's new in
the
Illustrator.
web applications
Thanks,
really
Brian and
work
Coy.
right there.
Adobe XD keeps getting better and better. And there is so much to be excited about in Illustrator. We are sending this
Come on,
iconic
get the
creative tool to
Photoshop-
the web,
I
so you
mean,
can work on
Premiere
your
Pro,
designs
please.
anywhere. And with Illustrator available on the web, it is so easy to show
right.
your work, gather
I
comments, and
presume,
collaborate.
like you do, Brent, that
Illustrator on the web
this
is
is
launching
actually
as a
built
beta.
for
So
the
please
three
sign
of
up
us,
today,
this
and you can
whole
help
thing.
guide us.
So they need, they need
I mean,
to
this-
get
this is great and
do
all.
this right, but they need to start
Let's
talking about
compliment
how
it.
they work with the new MacBook Pros. And they need to start talking about Premiere
let's
Pro like
shift
now.
perhaps the most
I'm getting
Exactly.
tired of all the weight we have
Today,
here.
Bring out
photography.
Tim Cook. for
Our
crying out
That's-
loud.
smartphones have turned all of us into avid
That's a cool
photographers.
environment he's in.
Now the challenge is to do
That
more
really
with
is.
every
Illustrator.
photograph.
He's been in so many
captured.
different
Well,
I know.
the rallying cry of the team that makes Lightroom, our cross-platform app for editing, organizing, and sharing your images, is
I think
to
if I
make
ever did a
all of
virtual
us
keynote
better
again or
photographers.
virtual keynote,
do this
I
with
would,
the
that's
world's
what I would
greatest
want. I would want
editing
like
suite.
different
I would
backgrounds
spend
popping.
some
Yeah. Oh my God. These
That would be fun.
this part is
Create
just
edits to
stunning, man.
specific
What they're
parts of your
doing,
image.
all the backgrounds
do it
and
by
the
convening a community of
illustrations and what, oh
photographers
my
to
Lord.
share their
Of course, I would do
Images.
stupid things
to make
like
it easy for
hold
you to
up
apply
the,
what
you
you
know,
learned
the
to your
London
own
Bridge
Oh.
with my hand. And
So let's start out
Right.
by
or
hearing
the
from some of the
or
members
the
of our
Leaning Tower of
photography
Pisa.
community.
Right. You twirl it on your finger.
That's right.
Eisman will share
You turn
with
it, or
us
you
a
take
very
the
YouTube
Eiffel
template.
Tower and turn it upside down.
I don't know if you can hear.
Get rid of this highlight. Blah blah blah. Okay.
No, now we must be doing addition.
It's been a struggle, and it's kind of been like a roller coaster ride.
For better or for worse, the pandemic has forced everyone to think about who you're creating for.
God.
I love it when people say you can't, this is impossible. That's when you trigger me to go and do something. As an artist, you allow people to escape.
From our kitchen window is this building called the Big Pink. I spent the whole year
Whoa.
photographing this building.
What? Look at
It's a
that.
really like wonderful and delightful way to process.
You know,
my
if you saw
feelings.
that building in person, it
Keeping
would
my
not
creative
look
side.
anything
No.
like that. I love it. But
As a
such
still photograph where
great
the
She
emphasis
did though.
and
It's
timing on
stunning.
or evolving
Whoever she is, she
into,
did
like,
great work there. I'll tell you that.
The positive emotions that have lasted the longest have come from when I've been
I'll
able
go
to
see him when I get
impact someone else's life.
Look at that.
Last year really made it.
He's in DC.
There's some talented people
Silence
out
is
there.
not an option.
Well, that's again, we're looking at the real
I think for
creative
me,
here.
that's the purpose of an artist, to incite thoughts or to challenge.
My work is an opportunity to be in a
That
position
shot
to
was
hear about a
amazing
story I
right
haven't
there,
heard
the last
before and help folks, especially during COVID, build digital empathy about those things.
See, this is where
As for me
if
and
you're
every
able
other
to
artist,
bring
we are
together
storytellers, but
the
also
group of
our
people that
community
do
are
these
also
things
storytellers.
with
This
the
is
group
their
of people
spotlight,
on
and
the
this is their
Experience
time to
Cloud
be able to
side,
do what they need to do in
you've
order to
got
shine.
a killer combination.
Adobe is so well positioned, really, for the next
Lightroom
5,
is a
6,
complete
7 years.
photography system, one that allows you to access, edit, and share images on any device. And while this system was built to be powerful enough for professional photographers, it was also designed to be easy enough for anyone to use. And with that in mind, I'd like to give you a very quick tour of Lightroom, starting on this Samsung
See what I
Android
mean?
phone.
They think
There you
that's
go,
easy for
Lightroom.
anyone to use. It is,
Is that I
as
can
a
access all
user,
of my
it is not.
In my case, that means hundreds of thousands of photos from dozens of different
It's
cameras. So let's
easier
talk about editing in Lightroom.
than Photoshop.
I have all of the same power that I have on the desktop. This is an image that has not been edited. If you're new to Lightroom, that could be a little daunting. Well, that's where presets come in. Now, presets in Lightroom are uniquely powerful. They're tuned for different skin types and all different creative intents.
You know, on that
If I
side,
don't know
there's
what
20
preset I
trillion
want, Lightroom
presets
can even
too, right?
recommend
So,
presets based upon the content of my image.
and
Now, in
there's
my
so
case,
many
I do know the
external
presets I
providers
want.
of presets for all the
So I'll
different
navigate
tools.
that and apply
It's
it.
get that
That's the
again,
same
if you're
preset.
not an
The
experienced
image is
creator,
dramatically
it's hard to know what you
Now, if we look
what
closely
you
at the
can
base of my
use
screen,
even.
we'll see a few dots that show that Lightroom has
I
made
have
changes to those areas.
hardcovers of
I
about
can, of
8
course, come in
different
and override
Adobe
those,
apps
make it a bit warmer,
sitting in my
add a bit of a
office.
tint. Come into the
Hardcover
effects area, see that
manuals,
Lightroom has added some
basically.
clarity. Let's
That's
add a
pretty
whole bunch more. In fact, let's go off on our own and add a bit of a vignette. So very quickly, without understanding much at all about how Lightroom works.
That's right. You know, we actually forgot another one of those periods
to
that you were talking about black and white. The
looks
color
great.
was sepia.
Now, part
the
of what
sepia
makes this
period.
system so powerful is that anything I
That's
do on
right.
one device
That's right.
is synced with other devices. So at this point, let's move from the phone
right.
over to the desktop, to my M1 Mac, and we'll take a look at those same
Ooh.
images.
Oh, look at that.
Oh, but that's,
M1.
yeah, right.
Not
Exactly.
M1 Max.
So here we are on the
Old one.
desktop, and same images, same previews, including the one that I just edited.
Oh,
The
is
preview
this
looks
the
great. The edits are just as I
24
left
inch?
them. I could continue building upon these edits, but at this point, what I'd like to do is share this image. In fact, with Lightroom, I can do much more than just send a link. So let's come in here to share, and I'm going to invite my friend and colleague, Katrine Eisman, and I'm not just going to let her view these, I'm going to let her contribute her own images and edit as well. So at this point,
point, I'll hand over my edits to Katrine,
who's going to pick up on those and show you what's brand new in Lightroom this year.
Thanks, Brian. I really enjoy using shared albums
And
with my
everything's
family,
been
my
so
friends,
seamless,
and of course, my
time,
colleagues.
right on time,
And
the
I really
cuts,
like what you've done with
no
this image. The
The
movie
irony
colors,
is,
but I
and it
wanna
is
feel
ironic
something
actually,
in
because
there.
one of the
And
things
one
we
way to
always bitch
accomplish
about
that
is the
with a
fact that
tighter
they're
crop.
overly product
I'm gonna
centric
come in,
on these
I'm just gonna
keynotes.
crop in a little
And this
bit,
one is completely
push that
product centric,
over.
but it works.
That looks better. I feel like I'm really
But there's no better
there.
way to
Now,
talk about
as
this
Brian
stuff than
mentioned,
seeing
No,
it. I
everything's
mean,
no.
been
this is
Lightroom
the only.
constructed,
This is one of the few
and I
conferences
can
where
even
this is
create
or
a
events.
It
name
where
absolutely
you
works.
Totally
That's what's so
acceptable.
funny.
take a
It's
look at
literally the
and
only one that you can
undo
actually say, well,
or
this is
actually
fine.
recrop the
Because
image.
every
Yeah.
other
so
one
the
is
entire
terrible
image
when it
is
goes
still
to
there.
that.
Yeah,
Now,
this is like more,
I
please.
want to take a
Yeah.
moment to show you the new
Wait,
feature
do
I
this
am
one. Hey, can I
so
submit a video
excited
here?
about,
Can you do that?
and that is
And of course, where the
Lightroom
hell is
Enhancement.
Premiere Pro?
And here's a great
Yeah,
example. As
it's
a
coming.
landscape
It's got to be
photographer,
coming.
I often want to darken down the skies. Well, up until today, I would take a linear gradient,
Alan, I
drag
thought
it
you made up
across
that
the
phrase.
horizon, darken down the
No,
sky,
he coined
and get
corporate
really
narratives.
upset that the top
That's
of the
right.
mountain
That's
also
right.
got darker.
I got the
Of course.
That
background
is
on
not
that.
going to work
Fun
with me.
concept.
Let me delete
He's the only
that
one who
really
knows what
quickly
ours is,
and show
including me
you
and Brent and
the
you.
new
None
Yeah,
of us
we,
know
we
that.
still don't
version
But
of
know.
Alan
that.
knows it.
Incorporating artificial intelligence,
He might
we
tell
now
us
have
Okay,
select
you know
skies.
what it is.
Sensei.
To take a few
Sensei.
seconds,
All right,
That's
here we
analyze
go.
that.
couldn't even
That
finish
became
my
a
sentence.
mature.
Look at that.
They
Beautiful
built
mask
that tool
with the
to a
fine details
mature
and
level
very
in
equal
2 years.
translucency of the
It was
clouds. And
amazing.
now, when I
You know
darken
what?
down the sky,
Absolutely amazing.
only the
You
sky gets
know,
darker.
I saw
And add a
NVIDIA
little
in their
dehaze to really
AI
make that dramatic.
Whoa.
That's
for
looking good.
graphics.
Now, I want to
It's
bring out
impressive
that
too.
rock
It's
face.
good to see this
We've
stuff come out.
also incorporated color range, luminance range, and depth range masking.
Look at
So
that.
with
She
color
was able
range,
to bring
I'm
in
gonna
the
click on this
clouds
orange
and
wall.
add a.
It
That's a
just
really
looks so
great mask.
So you
And
know,
I'm
here's
going
here's
to
the
warm that
strength
wall
and the
up
weakness here.
and add some
All three
clarity.
of us are
And
conversant with
now
what they're
let's take a
saying.
look
2
before
years ago, I wouldn't have
and
been,
after.
but we're conversing with
Really
what they're
quickly
talking
without a
about.
lot of effort.
But there's an enormous number
Now,
of people
I
that we
get
talk
asked
to
to produce a
generally
lot of
who have
images.
no idea what they're
Could I
talking about.
change the background
I mean,
color
she
of
actually
that
used the
wall?
word lumens,
Well, let's
right?
take a
So,
look.
Well,
Using
so
artificial
how many people do you
intelligence,
honestly
when you
think know
click
what lumens
select
are?
subject,
yeah,
I think
but
a lot
who is
more
our
now.
audience?
Lightroom can
Who is
build
our
the
audience
mask
for this
with
No,
particular
no, I'm
that
saying
beautiful
not.
detail.
I'm
Yeah.
not
Now remember, I want to
denigrating them.
change
I'm
the
just saying
background.
there's
So
a
very
lot of people
quickly, I'm
out
going to
there
invert
who
the mask.
Oh yeah, they
And
don't know.
now,
could
They don't have a
which
clue.
color
No.
would you like?
who should
Oh,
really
I'm
hear
liking
a
this
lot of
blue.
this but won't
That looks
understand
pretty
it.
good.
I mean, if I heard
But
lumens, I'd say, well,
let's
yeah, I
take a
used to eat
closer
there in
look
New York.
here.
It's a
There's
deli.
a little red peeking through.
It's on the
We
south
can
side, right?
refine the
Right.
mask using add or
Well, no, it'd
subtract
be the Upper
with
West Side,
any
believe me.
of
Be
the
very
masking
expensive
tools.
deli.
I'm going to use a brush,
Corned beef,
and I'll just
$26.
paint over.
Good
Now, it
lord.
looks like I'm painting
That
blue,
ranks right up there
but
with
I'm
that
not.
yogurt
I'm
you bought
actually
for like
painting on the
Yeah, that
mask.
was great.
And you
$30.
can see the
Yeah,
new
well, I
masking
didn't buy it.
feature
I
lets
gave
you
it
work
back.
on very specific parts of your image with incredible
That's another story for
control.
another Playaz
So,
episode.
no matter if you're just starting out in photography or if you're a seasoned pro, Lightroom is a complete photography
Okay, so we've
system,
hit
one that
Photoshop,
includes
Illustrator.
inspiration, learning,
Again,
and
I
all
was
of the
slightly
features
different with
you
her
need
on her
to make
view
your
of
images
Lightroom,
shine.
whether you're a seasoned pro or
Thanks for
just
tuning in,
starting up.
Brian. So the
No,
next
you
time
have
you
to
go
have
to a
knowledge
vacation
in order to use
spot, a
Lightroom,
hike, or a
and it's
concert
very
with friends and
confusing
family,
if you're
they
just
can all
starting.
be involved in
Right,
compiling
so
and editing the album
I
and
don't
images
actually buy
that
into
keeps
that
that
one,
experience
but I
fresh in your
do.
memories. One of the
I
things that makes
appreciate the
collaboration so
spirit
smooth in
in which
Lightroom
it's
is
offered.
that you can use it on nearly any platform, desktop, mobile, and in your browser. And both Lightroom and Photoshop are now natively
But I think
supported
this is the
and
beauty of
extremely
nowadays.
smooth
Like if you
on
really
both
wanted to
Apple
immerse
Silicon
yourself in it,
and
and
Windows
I
ARM-based
would say
devices.
that before COVID, after COVID, people know what more people know what lumens are.
Yeah.
They had to, right?
Oh yeah. No, I agree with you.
Yeah, and so, but
Okay,
there's so much
let's
out
talk
there
about
for
how we
people
tell
to learn
stories.
this stuff. I mean, right
The
now,
most potent storytelling
I think I
medium
was
today
talking to
is
somebody
video.
earlier today. Like,
We see
my
its
son
power
is
in the
trying to do
explosion of
animation
streaming
in
services.
Blockbench,
The
which
growth of
allows him to
social video on
create new
platforms
creations
like
in
TikTok
Minecraft.
and Instagram,
And
the acceleration
he's
of video
watching videos
marketing
to figure that stuff out.
Fortune
And
500
he's a
companies
7-year-old,
to
right?
tiny
So,
small businesses.
and he'll eventually
All
teach
sorts
daddy
of
because
people are making
obviously
video
that's
today.
how it works.
From a rising
Because
social
daddy's
influencer
slow,
recording her
and I need to help him
videos,
out.
the Hollywood team is
That's
creating
right.
the next binge-worthy
Daddy,
Daddy's
don't put
slow.
it that
Mommy's
way.
like
believe it's
way
our
faster.
responsibility to build
She's
video
staying
creation
pace.
tools for the full spectrum of
But
video
anyway, there's a
mediums.
lot of resources I think
Jason
that a lot of
Levine is
people
here
can
to
immerse
show us
themselves
the
pretty
new
quickly. They
features
just have to
that
make
make
sure that
video
it's not
production
too
more powerful
cumbersome.
and fun for everyone.
What is that line to be, right? Like features versus
It's hard to
ease of
be
use and
optimistic about
productivity.
anything these days because
I think we're in
sometimes
Premiere
it
Pro
feels
now.
like, oh,
Yeah,
I'm over
look
here
at
doing my
the
little
quality of her
tasks while
video.
the world is burning.
Look at
Oh
that.
my gosh.
I know. Well, actually,
well-designed background with her.
Well-designed
action there,
hair
too.
for that
Yeah, that's
background,
right.
right? That's
Big
amazing.
fan of the blue, of course.
I
yeah.
am too. She looked amazing.
She looked great.
year,
Yeah.
It's like, be careful
Good
what
Lord.
you ask for.
What was that?
The greatest thing about having platforms and having channels that a lot of creators and influencers have nowadays is that they can really
I
share
watched
those
the video
YouTube written all over
things
her.
that they're
Her.
passionate about.
She. I
Really
watched
start
some
trying to
video
make a
not that
difference.
long
I
ago.
don't think directors realize how much
His name sounds
actors
familiar.
are taking like cues from your face, and you only have your eyes, and then you have a plastic shield in front of it, and it's always fogging up, and you're trying to like, you know, talk to another human being.
So I know a lot of us work from home most of the time.
Yeah,
and I'll
these
be
are all
like, hey, I'm gonna
YouTubers.
jump on Twitch
She
stream
looks
and
like
we
a
can just
YouTuber.
co-work
Yeah.
together. And I'll literally just be sitting like editing or organizing files. People
Twitch
still want to
and
like
YouTube,
hang
I'm
out
sure.
and chat. And it feels like
Yeah.
I'm connected
She's
to
got the
people even
gamer
though I'm
chair.
still
The
like
designs
alone
of
in
her
my little
chat.
office.
Just the last.
Most people who are
That was
content creators
amazing.
are very driven. I find
Yeah.
myself telling them a lot. Like, have you ever gone on vacation and purposely not thought about how you could turn that vacation into content? Go on the vacation. Just do it. Just do it.
Dedicating
Wise
this past
advice.
year and a half really intensely to working
One of my
on
favorite
a
first
project
names,
that's
Maris.
about how do we in the
Really?
community
I
help
always
one
liked it as a
another
first name for
get
some reason.
through has felt
Wasn't
really
somebody on
motivating.
TV had a name like
Yeah,
that?
yeah, it was on
Should be
Oh,
show.
Frasier.
Yeah, Frasier.
It
That
was
the
somebody's wife.
Yeah, David Hyde Pierce's wife.
I have
Yeah, his
not
brother's
for one
Niles'
second
wife.
thought
Niles'
that was
wife.
normal. I expect randomness because that's where
What's her name? The
opportunity
actress.
for
She was
learning
great.
comes.
She's a great
My
actress.
word for 2021
Yeah,
would
she
be
was great.
anticipation, rediscovery,
Lilith. That was
new
Frasier's
ups
wife.
and downs.
Love.
Oy, oy, oy. I'm sorry. When I hear that one is your
Hello,
20
everyone. Today I'm here
that's
to share
like,
with you
thanks
some
a lot for
incredible new
that one. It's
features
so
in Premiere Pro
insightful.
and After Effects. I'm going to start by
Love.
showcasing a brand new.
I
I
liked
don't know.
rediscovery.
Well, that's,
Rediscovery?
no, that's fine. I'm just.
Oh, I know you're
You
not
hear
gonna
people
do
who are
that.
saying things because they want people to think they're
Keep on getting these spam calls.
they're hip, right? So I hate that stuff.
Experience that we've been developing as part of the Premiere Pro beta with you, the community. So I've been creating this highlight reel featuring some of the awesome guests that I've had on my various Adobe Live shows. And in this new import experience, you're going to notice that it's all about media first. All of our supported file formats
Right, he's
front
in
and
Premiere
center.
Pro.
I've got
Yeah.
my connected devices and drives along the left-hand side here. And as I begin selecting my content here, you'll see that it begins building a little timeline down below. Directly from this view, I can place all of this content discreetly into a new bin. I can even build my sequence directly from here. And when I click on import, it brings me directly into Premiere Pro so I can just begin editing and telling my story. So super cool. Now let's talk about captioning. So as I mentioned, this is a collection of different guests that I've featured on my various Adobe Live shows.
Maybe we
And
could
if I
hire
were to
this guy.
transcribe and caption this manually, this would take an enormous amount of time. Let's instead use speech to text and the incredible power
Yeah, that
of
speech to text thing.
auto-transcription
Yep.
to do this
Mm.
for us. So directly from within the text panel, I'm simply going to click on Create Transcription. When I do that, all I need to do is choose the language that's spoken. I have an option here to even recognize when different speakers are talking. Click Transcribe. It's going to process that in the background and deliver to us a fully editable and time-coded transcript.
God.
So if I wanted to verify where my guest JB was saying absolutely true,
Absolutely true.
or where my guest Aaron was saying something about design, just like that, I can navigate to those individual words, make those changes, finesse this,
Don't
and
need
get
our
it perfect,
translation.
so that when
Don't
I'm
need our
ready to create
transcribing
captions, directly from
technology
this
anymore.
panel, I click on
The
Create
script will
Captions.
go away.
Once again, it processes
use
the
Premiere
background.
Pro.
Check it out.
Hi, everyone. Jason Levine here. So I thought it would be cool to...
Yes. Okay. So now I want to customize these. I don't want my captions to look like everyone else's.
I like his
I
energy.
want to use my branded captions. Well, you can do this
Mhm.
easily with the Essential Graphics panel. So I'm simply going to highlight this caption block here, go into Essential Graphics, where we can do virtually anything to this that we have here in Essential Graphics. I can change the font. I can change the fill color. Maybe we want to move to something like a pale yellow, something like this. I can add a background bounding box. I can add a drop shadow. I can even use customized track styles that I've built in other projects to, again, bring my brand consistency and look to my captions here. And there simply has never been a better way to transcribe and caption your content to give it the greatest access,
I love
regardless of where people are watching it.
Can
Let's
you edit
talk
the video
motion
based on the
graphics.
transcript?
You can't
So
have
say,
a good
for instance, I want
question.
to cut out a
kind of motion
certain
graphics.
projects. So I've been compiling.
I would be surprised if you couldn't.
And then it just cut it out because it knows exactly what the time frame is.
Well, I know you can do that with
pieces.
I would imagine you have to be able to do it. I know the script does that. You can edit the text and it literally cuts the audio.
Oddfellows.
Oh, it does.
Now,
Okay.
of course, I would need to render all of this out and bring it back.
It's not
into
perfect
my
though,
Pro
but it's
project. And this
good.
is where really we spend an enormous amount of time.
Yeah, I use that with
This
Spoke.
is why I'm so excited to tell you that today we are
See, I believe him
introducing
too. Like, I know he
multi-frame
is
rendering in After Effects. Multi-frame rendering accelerates every part of your production process, and in many
I don't
cases,
use
up to
After
3
Effects
times
that much.
faster
I'm
than
just
before.
trying to understand it a little bit. It's actually really interesting tool, like a super
powerful
interesting tool.
stuff.
Oh my God, it's
And other
amazing.
parts of
But
the design.
I
If you
don't
pay
know how to
attention
use
the
it.
bottom left
Can't
here,
say
this is
that.
what we call the composition profiler, which graphically displays individual layer render times as well as effects renders within a layer.
Whoa.
The redesigned render queue now gives you more
That's just a cool
graphical
graphic
information,
doing
including
that.
showcasing how many
Cool.
frames
They're
are
doing
rendered
workout. They're
simultaneously.
working out.
And you now even have the option to send notifications directly to your mobile
that's
device
amazing what they're
when
doing
the
to
renders
arms.
are done.
It really is.
Jarvis.
So once the renders are
rendering
done,
is complete.
now it's time to share out for commenting and review. As some of you already know, we have recently welcomed
surprised they don't have,
Frame.io
like, a
to the Adobe family.
AI
With Frame.io, it's incredibly
persona
easy to share
within the
your
Adobe
content
ecosystem.
directly from within Premiere to anyone.
Their
They
own
can then
Alexa.
open that content in a browser. They don't have to have Premiere, and they can start marking it up and making comments. Like the ones that my friend
Did he say
Serge
what kind
made
of
here.
footage
Okay, you
this
can check
is?
the lighting
It's like
there.
4K
Here
or
he actually
something?
did a little markup.
I'm
and is
guessing
verifying
all in
what
all
type
it's
of
some
synth that is.
ProRes
But here's the
version
amazing thing.
of something.
All of those comments, all of those markups will actually appear directly inside of Premiere Pro as well, allowing me to make those changes, finesse that edit, and share it with the world. And these are just some of the awesome innovations in video. Thank you
And
very much.
now, if you have an
Thanks,
M1
Jason.
Max,
Now,
you can do
video
it natively
traditionally been
too.
one of
If you have a
most collaborative
16-inch M1,
Huge file
M1
sizes of most videos
Mac-
have made collaboration on post
no, a MacBook Pro
that's not all
Max
sitting together in the same studio.
It needs to be
That is,
specific
it was
to our
hard until
machine.
Frame.io debuted a few years ago.
Right.
Frame.io's elegant and efficient cloud-native platform makes reviewing and commenting on video super simple, which is why we are so excited to welcome Frame.io to the Adobe family.
That was a
Joining
great
me today is Emery
acquisition.
Wells,
Oh my
one of the
God.
co-founders of Frame.io, who I'm excited to work with.
That just
as he
happened
leads
recently,
Frame.io
didn't it?
and
Yeah,
video
like
collaboration
about, I
at
want to
Adobe.
say 3 months ago,
Emery,
maybe
thanks for being with
4
us,
max.
Max. Tell me about the origin of Frame.io back in 2000.
I think it was the last
What problems
acquisition.
were you trying to solve with this new platform?
Yeah, I think so.
Well, first of all, thank you. I'm thrilled to be here. It's my
That
first
Frame.io
Adobe
is
Mac.
fantastic.
So back in 2015, my co-founder and I actually started building Frame.io as an internal tool at my previous company. So I owned a post-production company, and I had been in post-production
hire this
for
guy.
over a decade. So we started building Frame.io really to solve the problem.
Let's keep hiring. Why don't we hire? We'll just hire Scott Belsky.
We're having these challenges. Really, everyone that made
Yeah,
videos
we'll
had
double
the
whatever
exact
he's
same
getting.
That's right.
Now here we are.
We'll have
Well,
to sell
I've
a
been
lot
a
of
huge fan of
sponsorships.
Frame.io for quite some time. But I've always loved the product, but also when we talk to customers of ours that use the product, it's just their love for the detail and the precision and just the
I
elegance
wonder
of it
if
really
they're gonna
struck us.
talk
So
about
can you
Workfront
talk
at
to us a
all
little
in
bit
the
about where you
keynote,
see all
'cause
this
we're
going?
kinda coming up to
What do
the
you
end.
see for the future of Frame.io?
So over the next couple of months, we have some exciting updates. We have a major security update coming before the end of the year. We have customers, sure, is going to be directly to the cloud. And we're going to be introducing new partners to our camera to cloud ecosystem before the end of the year. And then longer term, we've been hard at work
I
at
love
building
hearing that,
the
camera to
next version
cloud.
of Frame.io, which we think is going to be the future of how video gets made. And so that'll be out later next year. But of course, our team is super excited to release it to the world.
Well,
It's
we're
kinda
really
hard not
excited
to
about
just
this,
love
and
this
Thank
stuff
you again
for
for
what
being
it
with
is,
us
right?
at
I was
Max,
just like-
and we at Adobe hope to help you bring
Don't even
all
wanna
of
be
this
an
to the next
analyst, I
level
just sorta wanna
and make
watch.
sure that we pioneer the future of video together.
Likewise.
Thanks for being here.
Thank you, Scott.
It was a wise $1.25 billion acquisition right there.
So smart though. I mean, that one just like plays so well
Hi,
with them.
I'm
I
Mina from the
can't get over
Adobe
it.
Acrobat team. And today I'm here to share with you some exciting new features. Hi, I'm Mina from the Adobe Acrobat team. And today I'm here to share with you some exciting new features.
Well, you had to
of
have
the
at least
latest
one little
version of
glitch.
Acrobat. At the center of it all, we have PDF, the digital document standard. Acrobat makes it super easy to create and share PDFs, whether from a single document or by
I remember.
combining
I
multiple
literally
documents
remember
from
when
different
Adobe
sources.
announced that they were going
Now,
to
like
have this
most
thing
of you,
called
I'm not
PDF
always
that
at
they're
my
going to
desktop.
make into
With the
a
expanded
standard.
capabilities
I
of
literally
Acrobat
remember them
Mobile,
announcing
you can
exactly
truly work
that.
wherever you are.
How long ago was
Fill in
that?
forms, scan paper
Probably
documents with
15
your
years
camera,
ago?
15
and
years
even
ago.
sign right
But
from
I
your mobile
literally
device.
remember the day they said that.
Next, we have PDF services, which brings
I
Acrobat
thought, well,
straight
good
to your
luck.
browser.
making
Start
something
online
into a
reviews,
standard.
invite
and
others to comment,
Here
and
we are.
create shareable PDFs from your favorite productivity
That's why
apps
I don't
like
rule out
Microsoft
their content
365,
authenticity
G Suite,
initiative
and Dropbox.
as a standard.
And finally, earlier this year, we
Yeah, right.
introduced Acrobat
Although
Community,
ODI hasn't
which
worked too
makes
well
reading
with
PDFs
Adobe
on
and
mobile easier
Microsoft and
with automatic
SAP.
text resizing,
That hasn't
improved
gone anywhere.
navigation, and
Open
better
Data
searchability.
Initiative.
Oh my
If
gosh,
you work
thank
with
goodness.
documents like we all do, be sure to join us in our breakout sessions
gonna go
to learn
test this
more
out.
about the power of Adobe Acrobat.
I can read PDF files on my mobile phone without having to do the, pinching and squeezing and moving, or bringing out my, binoculars.
Okay, I want to finish up by talking about the most exciting and revolutionary new creative medium, 3D and immersive creativity.
All right.
We've all been blown away by what game companies and
Look
movie
at that.
studios can do with
Oh,
3D design.
shoot.
Their ability to create whole new worlds completely unlike our own.
Now they're answering
For
my
a
question.
You
long
see, there's
time,
I did
many
that.
in the
That's the
creative
room behind me. I'm actually outside.
designing in 3D
I
was
created that whole thing.
too complicated or way too
Did it also
complex.
reduce the sound,
That
the wind and the traffic
changing
sounds?
No,
also?
mine
Takes
actually
you
literally
Pandemic
creates
hit,
the
and big
actual.
studio
I think I'm
photo shoots
inside,
became
but I'm actually
impossible.
outside.
Many
It's created
companies
a
and creative
room this way,
pros started
virtual, and then I
experimenting
filled
with
it in with
3D
like
to produce product images, TV ads, catalog shots, and more.
cement.
They found that 3D creativity tools are easier than ever to use, and that 3D creation is incredibly flexible, efficient, scalable, and sustainable. And working in 3D allowed them to do things they never could have imagined before. We believe so strongly in the
green
importance
tree.
of 3D
I know.
creation.
Fiber optic tree
We
in my
brought
back-
the
yeah, in the
team who
background
created
somewhere.
Substance, the
I've lost track of
industry-leading
how many
3D
cool
material and
backgrounds
texture
he's had
engine,
over the course of
into
this thing.
Adobe. Within Creative Cloud,
Just say they
as
didn't
you've
have
seen
bad
earlier in the
ones, so.
keynote, we're
Actually,
integrating Substance 3D
he's the background,
capabilities
so they've
and
only had one.
materials into our flagship products. So they're
Yeah, right.
accessible for any project you're working on. And for designers
Wait, are
who
you
want
saying
to
he's not
fully
real?
embrace
He's
3D,
actually just
we launched
I,
the Adobe
if I can create this room, we can render this guy.
separate suite of interoperable tools and a growing library of thousands of assets that support 3D projects from beginning to the very end.
It's
we
funny
are really
how,
excited
like you
to
were
show you
saying,
what 3D design
the
and the
Dreamforce
Substance
keynote
3D
was
collection can achieve.
not at all about product,
Let's start
and
with a
we
quick video showing
enjoyed
you
it.
what 3D is
This has been
capable
all
of.
about
And a
product,
quick
and
note,
But
we
it's-
enjoyed it just as
everything
again,
much.
in each video
It was
It
relevant.
goes
It
to
was
the
important.
heart of the next 5 years of business people need to be thinking about, which is content creation, content distribution, and consumption are what they have to be thinking about. Not half the stuff they're thinking about right now, but that, along with participation, of course, which is collaboration, sharing, community, and that goes to distribution and so on and so forth.
Along with making
And with a
sure
wider
that-
definition of what content is. Meaning
and-
content is also how things are interacting, and then requires you to start thinking about transactions as a subset of interactions, not separate. I mean, there's a lot of mental shifting that has to go on for people to do this right, but it's eminently doable. And you know what? You look at this, you look at the PC and gaming community, and you see it's doable because it's being done.
It's being done. Yep. I'm with you, Paul. I'm glad they're here to touch base on the, a little bit about the gaming side of things. Gaming.
Well, there's a guy at this
Hiatus
conference
for a
from
few years,
Unity.
right?
There's a guy from Unity here who I'm going to.
Oh, he is.
Yeah, I'm going to be talking to him later. Look at this.
Substance.
I think those were beta on the
Okay,
Creative Cloud.
I mentioned that many companies are now using 3D to create marketing images and so much more. The best tool for creating photorealistic 3D scenes is Adobe Stager. Here to share a look at Stager is my colleague, Jeanette Matthews.
Today, I'll be using Stager to have a virtual photo shoot. Let's take a look. I just created some simple walls, then I took some pre-built models and drag and drop them to start building out a set. Stager comes with a huge collection of starter assets, so I'm going to start by browsing the models here. I like this coffee cup, so I'll just drag and drop it to add it anywhere into my scene. For this
See, right
object,
now,
I'm gonna
that's
adjust
AutoCAD,
the height,
but
maybe try out a taper.
see where it goes
and
further.
even try out a different style of handle. You can see how quick and easy it is for me to start customizing things. I
Still
also want to
AutoCAD.
change the way that this object looks. And for that, I'm going to use a material. I really like this ceramic over here, so I'll just drag and drop
I
it
think I saw
right
this in
onto
a
the cup.
Bond movie somewhere.
I'll change out the color so that it better matches my design, something with the orange theme, maybe add in some teal for these bubbles. But I can go much further than that and even change out how many bubbles are in that enamel or even change out how much the glaze pattern is warped. Now I'm ready to add my copy product, and for this I have a custom model. Stager can import tons of formats, so I'm going to go over to my Creative Cloud libraries and just drag and drop that file, again, right into the viewport. So I'm going to go ahead and rotate this, maybe slide it over a little bit so it better fits in my scene.
Adobe always
I'm ready to apply some
makes me
branding onto this
appreciate
bag.
or reminds me that
Here I
you're
have
only
my
limited by
logo
your
and some decorative
imagination.
elements around it. And again, I've saved this to my Creative Cloud libraries. Back in
Now more
Stager,
than
I'll
ever.
just take that Illustrator
You
file
know, to shot
and drag
news,
and drop it again
great.
right onto the model. And what you'll see is that this graphic is wrapping
He's
around
just
the 3D
the guy has
surface
been
of the
focused
model.
on vision
I can position,
and
scale, and rotate
actually
it in real
accomplishing
time
their
to
vision
get the exact
for
look
as
I
long
want.
as he's been
All right,
CEO, which
everything's
is
coming together
obviously
really
a very long
nicely,
time now.
except
So
I have these
he's
copies
really
down
he's
here,
one of
and they
those
just need to
CEOs who
look
just
more
never lost sight of
integrated.
where he wanted
It
to
would be a
go.
lot of work for me to
He
push
didn't
everything
change
by
due to
hand,
ego or
so
power
Stager's going to
or
help me
whatever.
out. I'm going to select the bag, and I'm just going to enable collision. Now I'll select the beans, and I'm just going to move them up.
Never met him,
and
but
start
I'd like to
pushing them
meet him
over.
someday.
And Stager's going to do all of the work of figuring out how those beans need to collide and rotate
Oh my gosh,
and
wow.
interact.
But
And
there
in
we
just a
go.
couple of seconds, I have these amazing looking coffee beans. All right, the most important part of a virtual
was so
photo
cool.
shoot, of course, is taking my pictures. And just like the real world,
And
I'm
if
going
that's
to
a
use a
current
camera.
feature, then I
Here I'll
apologize
create
for
a
being
camera
so
object.
ignorant about it, but that was really
I can
fast.
No,
change the output size, so
I've
maybe
never
I'll
even
do a
seen this
square
product in
aspect
action. I
ratio.
just saw it as a
But I can
beta.
also play with
Seeing
some new
things
camera
collide
settings.
naturally
For
and then
example,
being
I
able to
can
place
change
them
the
so you don't have
focal
to
length
worry
of the
about trying to
camera
reposition
to
that.
try
That's
out something
really
like a
cool.
wide-angle lens.
Obviously, they've
or
hired a
more
number
of
of
an extended
physicists
view.
at the
I can
company.
also bring some depth of field.
That's
I'll
awesome
turn
too, the
that
depth
on,
of field,
and what you'll
like
notice
changing
is
the
the
field
foreground and background
perspective.
elements become blurred. When I'm happy with all of my cameras, I'm going to hop over to render mode. In render mode, I can choose my render settings, choose which cameras I want to render, and in just a couple of seconds, Stager is going to generate photorealistic images for me. Now, these are multi-layered PSDs, so as that finishes rendering, I'll hop over to Photoshop. Here I have access to a lot of different render information, not just the rendered image, but also things like depth paths, material and object selection helpers, and I can use this information to build up effects. For example, here I use the selection mask to change the color of the wall. I have access to all of
That's
Photoshop's
amazing.
features, so I can continue to refine my design. In just a couple of minutes, I was able to add models, customize them, and generate photorealistic imagery, all from my desktop computer.
Thank you, Jeanette. As you can see, Stager is great for putting 3D objects into photorealistic scenes and producing dozens of different variations. But that's not all the Substance Collection can do. If you want to design an object with pinpoint creative control over materials, colors, and effects, you can do it in minutes with Substance 3D Painter. Here to demonstrate the power and versatility of Painter is Wes Mcdermott.
So today, I'm going to be working on an HP ZBook
Bill's
Studio,
son.
and I'm also going to be using Substance Painter. Let's jump in and take a look. You could think of Substance Painter as the Photoshop of 3D painting. So my canvas is a 3D view that I can paint directly on 3D objects. Over here on my right, I have a layer stack. Substance Painter uses a familiar layer-based workflow. Over here on my left, I have my asset library, materials and filters, as well as brushes that I can use in my texturing projects. All right, so let's come over here to my robot, and I'm going to just create a new layer. Now I'm going to jump over here to my project tab, and I'm going to grab here one of these material brushes. So now here in my scene, I'm going to go in and just start to paint this material. And as you can see, I'm able to paint this physically based material in real time right here in my viewport. We're painting across multiple channels like base color and roughness. Now, we can't talk about painting without talking about brushes. So I'm going to come over here to a brush tab. Now, you'll see here that I have some Photoshop brushes. You can import in your own Photoshop and Fresco brushes. And so here I have some brushes from Kyle Webster's library. So I'm going to select one of these Kyle's brushes. I'll jump back over to my project tab, and then I'm just going to select a material. So now I'm going to come in and just start to use this combination of this brush and material to just splatter some paint here across the surface of my 3D robot. Now, with Photoshop, you're used to using filters to create effects, and we can do that here in Substance Painter as well. So I'm going to come over to my materials, and I'm going to grab this steel stain material. I can just left click and simply drag and drop it right here into my layer stack. You'll see that that renders this metal material right here in my viewport. Now I'm going to grab one of my masking effects. I'm going to grab this one called Metal Edge Wear. I can just simply drag and drop it right here onto the layer group. And just like that, we start to get this nice effect. Now, just like a filter in Photoshop, I can adjust some of these sliders here to dial this effect up and down and get this looking exactly like I want. And now let's talk about painting some details. I have this brush that I created. Now this has been created.
I revert to jealousy and jealousy.
I'm going to grab this panel, and then I can just stamp this right here onto the front of the robot to create this panel.
Exactly
now,
what
what's really cool about this is you'll see that all of the
announcing my
effects and
retirement
layers
today
that I've
as
been
an
working with
analyst.
here in my
I'm
layer
going into
stack,
graphic
they can
design.
interact with this new paint stamp. So you'll notice that my metal edge wear just kind of comes along for the ride. Now I'm going to paint some additional details. So I'm going to enable symmetry mode. So
These
as I paint on one
notifications are
side, it's going
killing
to update on the other. And I'm just going to grab just another one of these little hard surface assets. And then I'll just stamp this detail
Look
down
at
here.
that.
As well. Okay, so the robot's looking pretty cool and interesting. And so now what I'd like to do is kind of shift gears and talk
3D
about
print
a pretty
this robot
advanced
out and
feature of
play with
substance
it.
painting called smart materials. So a smart material is simply
maybe
just
not
a
yet,
collection of layers and effects. You can think of it like a smart object in Photoshop. So let's check this out. I'm going to grab this particle brush here. And what this is going to do, let me activate my symmetry. This is actually going to let me paint with a particle simulation. As the particles hit the surface of the 3D model, they're going to leave behind a paint stroke. So here you can see that I'm actually creating this really nice and interesting organic kind of effect here for this rough material, which again is being built from that smart material that I created. So now what I'd like to do is shift gears once again and concentrate here on the face area. So I'm just going to select here this texture set for my display. And I can take this Photoshop graphic, and we're just going to drag and drop this graphic here on the base color and the emissive.
Sorry for
and
the
here you can see we've applied that
notification.
graphic.
I thought I turned them
Now I have this
off.
transform here that I can actually use to adjust or reposition this Photoshop graphic right here in 3D space. All right, so now my robot is completely textured. So I'm going to come over here to File, and I'm going to choose to send this to Substance 3D Stager, where I can then continue to add various post effects, do some color grading, and so on. So what you see here today is just a quick look at the power of substance painting.
So this is why the hamburger
so
looks
much more to
better.
discover. And I highly encourage you to jump in.
Right.
When you actually go to order it.
Right. They hired particle physicists to make a hamburger look good.
It kind of blows you away what's possible.
Why does that not look like what I saw on the web? Well,
Substance 3D collection, which includes Stager, Painter, and other 3D tools and materials, is available now. So please check it out. As I said
You know, they
earlier,
really make a compelling
believe
case of
strongly
why you should
3D
buy
will be a
Creative Cloud,
huge
even if
force
it is
in future
$600.
creativity. And because of that belief, we've
Luckily,
also made this 3D collection available
yeah.
for
I mean,
free to millions of higher
you only
education
need
students around
really
the world, so they
three
can develop
to use
their
3 of those
3D design
applications to make it make sense.
Right.
But there's like 40. or
I
whatever.
know.
I don't know.
Well, that's the thing. You want to play with all the other ones. It's like
I
toys.
want to finish up this
If you're not a
morning
pro.
talking about the Content Authenticity Initiative, which we launched 2 years ago to ensure that artists
Seriously
get credit for their
inspirational.
work and to help people who view content know which content they can trust. I'm proud to say that starting today, anyone can turn on content credentials in Photoshop and ensure that they
Here
get
we
credit for their work by securely attaching attribution data.
This
to
is the
project they're
content
working on. The
authenticity
Content
stuff.
Authenticity Initiative
Yeah.
is open source. We have a growing number of partners to help us bring more attribution and trust
Microsoft is in
media.
there.
There are lots of reasons why getting credit for your work is
Not
important.
surprising, of
One
course.
reason that's emerged
Yeah, the
recently
relationship between
is the growth of
Shantanu and
NFTs,
Again,
or
Satya.
non-fungible tokens.
Yeah.
We know
High
the
school
For
chums.
those of you that haven't been following this
Garp.
wild west,
Garp.
many artists
The
are
Get a
using
Room
NFTs
partnership.
to access
NFTs
a
have
whole new
arrived
marketplace
into
Get
the
a Room
conversation.
partnership.
for their digital work.
Microsoft Adobe.
And
Garp.
unfortunately, some artists have seen their work copied and minted by somebody else with no benefit or attribution to the original artist. Well, we want to help solve this through the work of the Content Authenticity Initiative. We are working with a number of NFT marketplaces, including OpenSea, SuperRare, Known Origin, and Rarible, to ensure that when a project made in a tool like Photoshop includes content credentials,
Wow. So
that
this is
information
basically
displayed with
the
any
equivalent
related
of,
NFT.
well, we're working
This
with
gives
Bitcoin, but
collectors
on
and
blockchain.
marketplaces valuable information.
That's kind of
about
what
the
they're
true
saying.
creator
We're
of a
working
work of
with
art. And we will
NFT
continue to work in this
marketplaces,
area with a
but on
commitment to
authenticity.
improving sustainability
Makes sense.
while fostering
Well, it really is the
attribution
same
for
kind of
artists.
relationship, but the underlying framework.
This is this real like connection
we're
that we've
about to
seen.
wrap up.
at
I
least
know we hit you with
conversed
a
on
lot
the big
this morning.
tech side.
That's because there is
Yeah.
so much to explore in the new release of Creative Cloud. We are enabling connected creativity by connecting your assets, your apps, and your
Yeah,
team.
this is the
For
close,
the
I
first
guess.
time ever, we're bringing two
Yep,
of the most
the wind-up.
popular creative tools on the
pitch.
planet.
You notice how they did it, though, just
Illustrator
to
to the world's
They
most
brought it all the way back around because
collaborative
that's the same
platform,
background
the
set
web.
Shantanu started
Early
with.
next year,
So
we'll
even
debut
that was
cloud
obviously
spaces
thought
and
through.
canvases, the most
The book
efficient
ended.
and powerful way to share every part of a creative project with everyone involved. We are unleashing creative potential through innovations like colorizing a black and white photo with neural filters, adding motion to drawings and paintings,
But also the concept
automatically
that
adding captions
if you
to
think
video,
about their theme
and so
is
much more.
connected creativity,
You're
and that is
also ushering in a
the
new
perfect way
generation
to be looking
of
at all of
3D
this.
and immersive creativity
I'm
with the
I'm
Adobe
surprised they
Substance
didn't have
3D collection of
collaborative
tools and assets.
creativity in there
Finally,
somehow.
I think they're just
empowering
using the word
creative
connected
careers.
because it pretty
On
much goes
Behance, we're
external
helping
and
creators
internal,
learn new
right?
techniques,
So
find
it's just
inspiration
easier.
with practical tools, and connect with the people who value what they do. But all of that
And
is
it's
not
different
even
from
close to
collaborative, which is
everything
everybody
that's
else is
launching
saying,
in
right?
Creative Cloud
Right.
today.
Well,
Let's
and
take a
again,
look at some of the hundreds
and
of
connected
updates
connected
you'll find
creativity,
in today's release.
CC, just like Creative Cloud too. So I'm sure that's, although collaborative would work there too. But
Whatever. It works. It's good.
yeah.
And it's over apparently.
Oh, it's about time they have raw support.
All right. I think that was it, huh?
Yeah, it looks like it.
I believe so.
Heading out.
All
That
right.
was
Now I see.
absolutely
I
exciting. Yeah.
All right. So I see our guest is in the green room. So
All right.
before we bring him out, on any give us your first impressions. Although I just heard you say it was great, but
You know,
expand a little bit on.
No, I think again, the Adobe is really focused on on its audience and really listens to what's going on. While I'm not necessarily a in-depth creative creator, I do listen to what a lot of people are asking for, particularly in the era of content creation, and Adobe delivers again, without a doubt. And I think they again reinforce their strengths, which is the community that's out there. And honestly, I just like Paul, I am always amazed and in awe of what people are capable of doing, and I'm glad to see Adobe enabling them to do that.
All
Amen,
right,
brother.
Well, thanks for hopping in there.
I
in
appreciate it.
midstream.
This was fun. Yeah.
It was awesome as always.
Take care, guys.
Absolutely.
All right, my
we
friend.
will see you sometime soon.
Bye,
yeah,
everybody.
very soon, I'm sure.
All right. So I see our guest is in the green, the virtual green room.
Okay.
Although the virtual green room doesn't look nearly as good as the virtual stuff we just saw.
We
I
can't
have to
even
say
we
that.
can't even trick them with those stale Chronos. Right.
Nah, they're not going to work anymore after seeing
No.
what we just saw.
Now, so now we're gonna have to literally ship boxes of fresh Cronuts because we can't possibly be. Oh no, we'll build them in 3D Spacer and put them in the green room.
All right. So joining us right now is the VP of Product for Adobe, Will Allen. Will, thank you for joining us. This is great.
Hey, thanks for having me. It's great to be here.
Yeah. So, okay. So actually, I'm gonna ask. I know partly what you're gonna say, but before we get into what you're really focused on around content authenticity initiative, if you're looking at your own conference here, what do you call the primary single theme that Adobe's trying to get across?
Boy, that's a great question. And when I think about my colleagues across all of these different areas and how hard at work they've been, to release these things, first of all, I'm mostly proud to be to work with them and all the stuff that they've done. Boy, can I cheat and do like four? I'd say one.
Yeah.
One of them would be collaboration. I really think of that is an absolutely sort of key thing that we think about. There's sort of one message that I would say that we think about a lot. It is collaboration. I know that sort of in my, just in my personal job, I oversee the content authenticity initiative. I work in NFTs and Behance as well. And so much of my day-to-day life is spent, looking at prototypes, looking at designs, working with product leaders and engineers. And so I know sort of how critical collaboration is, and seeing the work that we're doing to bring this to sort of all aspects of the creative workflow. It's awesome. And it's super fun to see and exciting to see all these innovations come out.
Well, Brent and I are pretty much, we've been working with CX and CRM and customer engagement our whole careers, but we've been, let's say, at least let's call it reasonably intelligent enough to figure out that the world is making this relatively dramatic transformation right now, and it's a power shift really from our generations, baby boomer and Gen X. You can guess which is which, and to millennials and Gen Z, and their way of consuming content is completely different, right, than ours, and it's had more impact on us than we've had on them, right? So the thing with Adobe is you're incredibly well positioned there. And one of the things I was initially concerned about, because I've worked with Adobe on, and Brent has too, on the Experience Cloud for years. And it's good in the content creation, distribution, and consumption world, which is what the world needs to focus on. You guys are insanely, I always thought you would look insanely well positioned for creation. Right, and consumption thus, but distribution I thought maybe not so much. But now I think what I saw as this theme was distribution, meaning community, ecosystem, collaboration. I mean, that was the emphasis from the beginning, Shantanu's theme all the way through.
Yes.
And I am a terrible creator. I mean, I have no graphic sense whatsoever. Right. Same way
you're selling yourself short. I'm sure you're great.
No, I'm really not. But I mean, basically, I just was envious of all these people I was watching. Right. I'm just jealous. But the thing is, I think one thing that I've noticed by starting to use Creative Cloud is, in addition to your announcements, is you guys have an enormous amount of community and ecosystem built into it. And everything you announced today just reinforces that.
Yes.
Okay. So the question in that long-winded way is, how do you see that, the distribution part, even past what you announced because I think the maturity levels over the next 5 years where you can see this really mature. Right now, still early. What do you see Adobe doing based on everything you've just announced over that period to enhance the distribution side of that? And what you're doing specifically, obviously, is part of that. But just generally, what do you see Adobe doing?
Yeah, I mean, I appreciate the sort of the thoughts and the question there. I think there's a lot. I think we recognize from the side of creation, you don't want to create alone, right? And it's somewhat rare these days that it's just you and your machine creating. That of course happens a lot, but so often it is a collaborative process. Whether it's the people that you're ultimately going to sort of sell your artwork to, those that you're going to sort of just get design inspiration from, or the clients that you may have out there. So a lot of the focus that you saw is really about how do you work together as a team, whether it's a team of 2 or 200 or 2,000, right? How do you sort of bring folks together in different spaces and canvases to collaborate from there? And then sort of the next phase, as you sort of talked about, and this happens today throughout all of our tools and services, is how do we connect you to the different sort of platforms that you're already using, right? And help make it sort of really incredibly easy to sort of share, a new flyer that you created in Adobe Spark out to Instagram, or take the beautiful edits that you did in Lightroom and share them out to Twitter and Instagram or Facebook or TikTok or wherever. We want to make it really simple and straightforward to go from sort of within the ecosystem that sort of that we have to wherever you want to share your content. You as the creator should have the full sort of autonomy and ability to take your content wherever you want to.
Yes.
We want to make that super simple. And that's been a key focus. I consider myself sort of in your camp of maybe not the most visually creative person, though I try to learn quite a bit. What I love about our approach here is that we're really focused on making it easier for you coming in as either truly a beginner, as a student, or somebody who's just sort of changing. Maybe you're an expert in Photoshop, you want to learn Premiere Pro. We're really focused on making it easier for you to sort of get onboarded to these things. And then to get, like you said, connected to the community. How can you feel like you're not creating alone? How can you ask questions of different folks and then share it out in the world, wherever you want to share it?
Thanks. Perfect.
You actually came over when Behance was bought, about 8 years ago?
Yes, that's right.
So that's really interesting. So, I mean, you say you're not creative, but you've been around it for a lot of years.
Yes.
And then you're also responsible for or heading up the effort around the Content Authenticity Initiative.
Yes.
And that started pre pandemic.
Yes.
So how has what we've all been through, with the pandemic and going remote and having to collaborate creatively in a much different way than we were able to do so beforehand, how has that actually changed the initiative around content authenticity?
Yeah, it's a really great question. So yeah, we launched the Content Authenticity Initiative about 2 years ago, sort of announced about 2 years ago. And we've been really heads down, with partners all across the globe to make this thing work, and build the specification for how this thing can work. Find partners from, Nikon and Qualcomm and TruePic to Microsoft and the BBC and Twitter and the New York Times, to build out the specification to really understand the problem space. I think what we've seen with COVID and just honestly the past couple of years is that this need is just, it's increased. I think a lot of the emphasis 2 years ago was almost exclusively on deepfakes. What we've seen since then is that the problem is big, and it includes deepfakes, it includes so-called shallow fakes, it includes sort of misinformation and disinformation. And it just includes the fact that it's hard to know what to trust anymore. When you see an image or a video out in the world, we've done sort of different research, is that most folks recognize that they are seeing stuff that has been, that maybe not be an accurate representation of reality. A key facet that sort of we keep coming back to is just that most folks want to do the right thing. They're not out there trying to sort of share, disinformation or misinformation. And so how can we give them the tools to do so, both as a creator, maybe a photographer, an illustrator, a designer, to sort of attach their, attribution to their work and have it be seen out in the world. Then as a consumer as well, a lot of the misinformation that we see are folks unintentionally sort of spreading stuff. They see a photo out there, they assume it's real because they don't have any reason to doubt it. They, click whatever retweet or share button that goes viral, and it turns out it's missing some important context. And if we can help sort of provide that context and get people the receipts so they can know what happened, we think it can make a dent in this sort of this bigger challenge. And so, yeah, I think, the COVID pandemic has just accelerated this, right? We see this in all sorts of different facets.
So on the content initiative, there was some discussion in the course of the keynote that not going to be easy to create a standard. And look, I mean, if you're looking at it, you're one of the few companies that have created a standard like PDF. I was commenting that I literally remember the day when you announced PDF and that you were going to make it a standard. I actually remember the day.
That's awesome.
Right. But on the other hand, and ODI hasn't really gone anywhere. I mean, I work with all three companies, and and I was on actually an advisory board in the early days of ODI, and it's not going anywhere. It's not going to either. That's because it's very hard to create a data standard, even though it was meant to just be among the three companies, but still hard. Yeah. That said, I actually have some faith that you can do this. But what's the strategy to actually make it a standard?
Yes. Building standards is incredibly hard. And I'm very fortunate to have absolutely amazing colleagues like Leonard Rosenthal, who helped actually create that standard for PDF. Wow. Who has been through many battles and sort of understands the process better than anyone. He is chairing the standards body currently for this initiative. So I feel I just have got a world of confidence in Leonard to sort of help shape these things. But there are a couple facets to it. One is you have to make it open, right? And so we set up a standards body under the umbrella of the Linux Foundation as a joint development project. And so we set up an actual body to sort of oversee the standards work. And we didn't do it alone, right? It's with Microsoft, it's with Qualcomm, it's with TruePic, it's with a number of key collaborators with Twitter to help us really shape and build that standard from the outset. The BBC is also a sort of a key member of that. So I think if you sort of take the approach that it has to be open, you can't do it alone. You need key industry collaborators. And then 3, you have to be passionate about it. Like you have to really care and really push this stuff out there. And I do. I am personally on a mission to make this standard work. The team and my incredible colleagues from Dana Rao, our general counsel, to Andy Parsons, who leads this initiative on my team, we are driving this thing forward. And so I think you've got the industry collaborations with those folks under the umbrella of the standards body. And then you do real implementations in production, like what we're doing with Photoshop. I mean, today marks it's a real milestone for us. Starting today, anyone can go into Photoshop, turn this on, add what we call content credentials, which is sort of the branded name for that, the standard within Photoshop. And then it's readable anywhere. It's an open standard, but it's built into Behance. It's built into 4 different NFT marketplaces. So it's starting to become real and to get out there. And a lot of our focus for the previous 2 years has been laying this foundation, finding these partners, really understanding the problem space, putting the framework out there for the technical spec. And now it's sort of we're kicking it into high gear of really hitting that level of adoption. So I gotta say, as hard as it is to build a standard, and I don't underestimate the complexity of it, I have full confidence we're going to do this.
You mentioned passion a lot. And on the creative side, it's obvious that it's there not only from Adobe, the company, but from the community of creative folks that have gravitated towards using your products. I mean, it's palpable. You can feel it, and it shows up in the stuff that it's created. And everything we saw today really helps to foster that passion and the ability to collaborate and maintain that passion, regardless if you're next door or halfway around the world. So, and we think Adobe is in such a unique position because of the Creative Cloud and the history you have with creative folks and the platforms you created for them, and they're using it. But you also have the Experience Cloud and all of the pieces and the tools over there from a more business person perspective. So how do you marry the passion that you've created with creatives who are creative for creative sake, where on the business side, these folks are passionate about business. And so what did we see today that helps kind of bring these two worlds even closer together? Because I don't see anybody, in our neck of the industry that has that potential. I mean, the community of creatives, the tools and platforms that you've given them to create the things you announced just recently. But on the other side, these people who can desperately take full advantage of that creativity to bring that over to the business side. Talk a little bit about that. That would be great.
Yeah, I mean, I think I can, it's incredibly important, no matter where you are and sort of the spectrum, to build incredible digital experiences. And that's sort of the key thing that we enable. And we enable that for a graphic designer, for an interaction designer, for an illustrator, and that gets brought in and then delivered, to users and consumers across the globe in all these different areas, through the Experience Cloud and sort of what we're doing over there. And I think that's really critical, right? And that's been sort of our key, philosophy for a very long time, is that you've got this creation that happens, and then it's got to, so much of it needs to sort of get out into the world and find those connections across the board for different users, whether it's, Adobe, Experience Manager, or different ways to sort of manage these assets to get delivered to the right user at the right time, that level of personalization. I mean, what I love about what the team has done just with Adobe Max, I mean, it's all sort of built on our stack, right? Sort of on like using sort of our tech. And that's a perfect example of marrying sort of that creativity that comes from making amazing demo videos and showing, showing that process with a real experience of how do you get that experience out to millions of people across the world who are tuning into these live streams and then going off to these different sessions. I think it's a perfect example of that. And companies and enterprises across the globe recognize that, right? In particular, in a world that hasn't fully returned to in-person events. I think what we've seen is just this dramatic, acceleration of the recognition of the need to build really phenomenal digital experiences that sort of can follow the consumer no matter where they are, and capture their interest and capture their passion as well. And every person, every colleague that I work with on, that side of the business, they're passionate about it as well. It's what I love is that, they can tap into, folks that are working at these enterprises, and they want to make incredible experiences. Maybe they're not the Photoshop expert themselves, but that's okay because they've got Photoshop experts on their team that they can work with. And they're experts in the different sort of part of the stack, which is really getting those experiences to those users.
So, interestingly with you guys, I mean, I really, for years, in our end of the world, it's been the big four initially, which was Microsoft, Oracle, SAP, and Salesforce. And then we started introducing Adobe, and it was a big 4.5. And then it was a big 4.8. And then about 2 years ago, we officially, I think it was 2 years now, right? We officially announced
2 years. It's been less than 2 years.
Yeah, less than 2 years ago, we announced you officially as Big Five, part of the Big Five, meaning, right? So the thing is, though, that the thing is that you've done is just, it's been an astounding journey to watch and also to, a little bit participate in. And, your acquisitions for Marketo and things like that were really smart acquisitions because it puts you in a whole other, it puts you really more in B2B than B2C. But here's the interesting thing. We had this conversation through the keynote about the actual, let me put it this way. You guys talked from the beginners to the professionals, but what you think of beginners or semi-pros, right? They're not beginners. I mean, I'm a beginner and I know what beginning is, right? So, and I'm not, how do I put this? As graphically challenged as I may be, I'm not tools challenged particularly. I've used a lot of complicated tools, but you don't really, other than it's like sort of Premiere Rush is kind of a beginner tool, really is. And it's on a mobile device and it's, very easy to use in that regard, but you don't really have, like Lightroom is not a beginner's tool, even though you kind of position it that way. But you have a potential market for the casual creator too. And there's a lot of, people get inspired by what they see the professionals who use your suite do. And they really do. I mean, and now you want to look at a casual market, just look at how many people are creating actually genuinely good videos on TikTok. They're not pros. None of them are pros. And yet those videos are pretty damn good, right? The tools are much simpler.
Yeah, they're amazing.
But you guys have, that's a market that you can own if you want, because you are a company that the power of you has been B2C, and Marketo gave you B2B on the, that marketing side. But what about those genuinely casual creators? Is that something you want to do? Is it something you don't want to do? Is it something that you're planning on doing and starting in some way? What?
It's a great question. And I think about, one of our sort of key themes and driving forces is creativity for all.
Right.
And, we mean all. And that means, I would consider myself in a similar boat there, right? And that I'm not a visual creative, but, I play music, but I'm also not new to tools. I know these tools. I think you've got this incredible power of a lot of our tools, and it can be intimidating for some folks once you know how to use them. I will say though, what I've been amazed at with things like Lightroom is how they do bring you along in that journey. In particular with the stuff that they've done with sort of their Discover panel within Lightroom that allows you to sort of get behind the scenes and start to see how you can sort of create stuff and understand what a lot of these tools mean. I know for me personally, it's made a huge impact on my photography that I just share with my friends and family. So we have a big focus on that. How do we bring in these new users and help them create? But then for the folks that are truly, this is sort of a brand new spectrum for them, things like Adobe Spark, really critical, element here. Things like Photoshop Express, another, key part of this is how can we bring people in, maybe have a different style of approach. And they maybe have an idea like, hey, I want to create this collage. I want to create this poster. But I don't exactly know how to do these things. I don't know what masking means. That's great. We've got a spot for you on things like the Adobe Spark and Photoshop Express. And that's another big area of focus for us, because we really do mean creativity for all. And so I'd say you'll see a lot more sort of product improvements and updates there, in the months to come.
Hopefully also some additional products too. I mean, I love that market for you guys. And I it's basically in effect, kick TikTok video producers up a notch or two, right? And that's effectively the market, right? They're already doing videos and they want to do better ones because they get, like everyone else, when you do a cool video, you get, wow, I just did that, right? And
yes,
and at that point, they want to do more, right? And you guys are positioned to the I want to do more crowd.
Yes,
you're right there. And
there's a ton of stuff that I think that can continue, that we are focused on, that I think it's really bringing folks, on that journey, right? And how do everyone's got a story to tell. Everyone has creativity. We were born creative. And how do we help you tell that story, whether that's through video, whether that's through interaction design, illustration. Things like Fresco is another really interesting example. It's one of my absolute favorite apps that we have in terms of painting and drawing. And what's fantastic is give it to a child and watch them start to really get it.
Yeah.
And I would consider myself childlike in my skill set there. But it sort of really allows you to begin to create right off the bat. But as you progress and your skills get better and you sort of really, learn the craft, the tool sort of follows you and it enables you to go much, much deeper and much more sort of robust. So I would just say, absolutely. We think about that a lot. How do we bring folks in, to help them tell their story?
That's fantastic. I will tell one last thing. If you consider people being born with creativity, then I consider myself unborn.
Wow. Okay. On that note, I don't know if you're hearing any feedback from the community, the Behance community, but I'm curious and I'm interested in, Apple just announced this new series of MacBook Pros with the new M1 Pro and M1 Max chips.
Yeah.
And we all know that when these new chips come out, applications that were not, programmed with those chips in mind don't do as well handling those applications. So are there any plans for all the great stuff we just saw today to have a native app for these new chips, particularly the M1 Max?
Yes.
Yeah, we do already. I would say I'm running one right now. The M1, I've got an order in for the other new one.
Believe me, there's three of us.
Exactly.
There's three of us.
Yeah, we might be waiting a little while, but I mean, it's just it's so exciting to see that level of performance. But no, honestly, open up, Photoshop or Lightroom with these new chips, and it's phenomenal. I obviously am sort of biased, but we've done some really great research with other collaborators to see that impact, that these chips have made, and the teams have been really hard at work to make sure we do, we are ready for these things that are out there. So it's live today. Check them out.
Well, I bought a baseline machine, a 32 gig and 1 terabyte machine, because I'm basically just a mere road machine. So I bought it basically to do some minor video editing and breaking out clips and stuff like that. I actually get it today, but I'm at a conference, which is why I'm doing this from a hotel room.
Yeah.
So I won't see it till Thursday night.
Not that you're counting down the days.
I literally want to get out of this conference and see it. It's kind of what the deal
is.
First of all, I've been calling you Will all this time because I thought I saw it in an email. Do you prefer William?
I go with both. I go with both. Yeah.
Okay. I just want to make sure I didn't want to feel like I took advantage or anything. So just kind of the overarching, if you were brand new to Adobe Max, kind of new to the creative process, what are the most important things that they should walk out after seeing this with?
I would say that, there's a tool out there for you that's going to help you sort of tell your story, no matter what that is, and sort of what medium or format you want to do. If you're interested in 3D, I mean, the stuff we're doing with Aero and Substance is phenomenal. The ability to bring Photoshop in the web is a game changer. And the work that team has put into it, it's so remarkable to sort of see it in action, and I couldn't be more excited about it. So tell your story, and sort of we've got all sorts of different tools to help you tell it, again, regardless of the medium. And then also don't feel like you're alone. I'd say from both working with others to learning from others to being inspired by others. What we're doing on Behance with the live streaming. And just sharing your work. There's so much sort of rich community that's out there. Jump right in. Folks are incredibly friendly, and they want to help you learn.
Yep. So Brent, what do you think? Time for the question?
Yeah, I want to ask that, but just give us, how big is the Behance community right now? How many people are?
It's growing every day. Well over 1 million. Folks. Coming to the platform every day. And I would say it's just been remarkable. I've been working on Behance for a decade now, and seeing it continue to sort of grow and hit all-time highs just about every week is incredibly rewarding. And my team makes fun of me because I always say this, but I think it's true. It's like we're probably like in the third inning of Behance. Like,
wow.
we can no longer say it's in the first inning or the second inning, but like we're just getting going. I think this next decade is going to be even better than the first.
I will tell you this. Before I got involved really using the tools and so on, I would always say, well, the key tools are like Photoshop, the main. No, actually, the key to all of Adobe Creative Cloud is Behance, as far as I'm concerned. Well, it's literally the thematic key to everything.
I'm going to record this and send it around.
You can say industry analyst, godfather of CRM, Paul Greenberg says Behance is the key, and give Will a raise.
There you go. Exactly.
And watch the replay of this, because it was literally a overarching theme of we kept on saying Behance may be one of the most important strategic acquisitions, including all the actual applications that turn into these different platforms in the cloud. So
I mean, I'm obviously biased, but I think so. And a lot of the key folks that I've worked with for a very long time on Behance, including Scott Belsky, our chief product officer. We have sort of our roots and our foundation and understanding the community and what the community needs. And you can really see that come through with sort of how Scott talks about the future of creativity and his passion for building stuff. He listens to the community, across the board, and really drives sort of a vision and a strategy, and then the execution that's about, creativity for all, helping these folks sort of learn regardless of medium and wherever they are in their journey.
It's amazing. All right.
Yeah.
Brent,
So this has been a great conversation, and we've enjoyed it. We enjoyed the overarching, the whole watch party we did around Adobe Max. But we do have to ask this one question, and quite honestly, this one question tells us if we'll ever talk to you again or not.
All right.
So, do you have a favorite NFL team?
Ooh, a favorite NFL team. I'm originally from the Carolinas, so it's got to be the Panthers.
You're okay. We'll talk again.
Okay, good.
Because
there was only one wrong answer, and that wasn't it. If you had said that you were a New England Patriots fan,
okay,
we would have just cut this off right now.
Now you got to realize, as you can probably tell by what Brent is wearing, Rams. I'm New York Giants. I'm New York Giants.
Okay,
but so I mean, I'm pretty much just waiting for the season to end, right? So
before it begins, right?
Right. Yeah, I mean, forget it. But so that said, but the one thing we are absolutely united around is we hate the Patriots.
There you go.
And by extension, we kind of hate Tom Brady, but he's kind of, I have to give him
pretty
some
good
credit.
last
That
night.
thing he did, yeah, it was good. And that thing he did with that kid was really a nice thing to do. I'm kind of not, I'm easing up on him, right?
Exactly.
But not on the Patriots.
Yeah, I'm not there yet with that one.
No,
But anyway,
a little bit.
Will, thanks again for joining us. This has been really great. Appreciate
Paul,
you
thank
making
you.
time to do this.
You guys were great. You were just amazing. Well, we're going to definitely have you back, though.
Please do. Yeah. Thanks, guys.
All
Have a
right.
great one.
Take care.
Take care.
That was awesome.
Yeah, it was.
I thought it was awesome.
I say spend half of it being jealous.
I noticed.
Oh my God.
So first impressions before we let you go to CCE.
Well, I mean, again, it goes to pretty much what I've been saying, which is the thing that, look, 3 years ago, or 4 years ago, Adobe announced one platform consolidating consolidating Document Cloud, Creative Cloud, and then it was digital marketing with Experience Cloud. They also announced extended ecosystem. And that meant partners. It also meant customers. It also meant, the community as a whole. And they have fundamentally been fulfilling their promise ever since. And they really have done that. We saw that with, Adobe, Microsoft relationship, but we also see it with what they're doing with Behance. And I think that the theme of, he was calling collaboration, but again, what was connected creativity is absolutely so spot on and aligns them perfectly with the next 5 years in terms of what has to be done. And I think Will kind of, what he was emphasizing was they're very attuned to it. And so that's what I thought. What about you?
I kept thinking about, as we watched the keynote, and it was it made a lot of sense that they were talking about collaboration and, working, connected creativity and things of that nature. They had all this stuff already, in place when you think about it. I mean, they bought Behance 8 years ago, all these different components. But I think maybe because of the pandemic and because of the need for everybody to work from home and to work in different locations, it really allowed them to bring this new, I don't know, the messages felt like they could have talked about this a couple of years ago and it would have fit in. But talking about it at this particular time, it even makes it even more important and more timely. So I understand it now. It makes sense. They have everything. They have rabid communities of creators needing to figure out ways to create maybe differently because of the situation, and having to connect in ways that they didn't have to connect before, but they have it, and it's really important for them to message to that and to showcase it, and that's exactly what they did here. So I thought it was well done. It's kind of funny. We look at our traditional industry keynotes, and the one thing we say is less product, more strategy, thought, heart,
vision,
all
mission,
that vision, all that stuff. This was one of those where I'm glad they did what they did.
Yeah,
they showcased a lot of the different ways, the tools that allow this new type of creative process to work. And I think that was the one big takeaway, and that was the most important thing that they could have illustrated in that keynote.
Amen. Amen.
All right.
One last thing before we close, the CCE news. So last night I saw, and this was relevant to our closing, I saw Ann Chen was here, and Eugene Wei was with her as her guest. Right. So I sat with them for a while, but guess who wasn't here?
Minnie wasn't with them?
Nope. So Ann said she may bring her today.
She's got to bring Minnie.
I know. At least if she can't bring Minnie, we can.
Yes. As a matter of fact, we will. So on that note, I'm Brent Leary.
I'm Paul Greenberg.
And that's Minnie. And we will see you all later.